Chapter 509. The crisp shattering sound caused the grass to splatter everywhere. The 18 immortal reaching realm cultivators rushed toward Lin Tian at the same time, their divine power raging. Bastard, I'll make you wish you were dead. Damn thing. Extract your soul and break your bones. The people from the Altong's sacred ground and Taishien's sacred ground roared. Their respective saints didn't even leave behind their corpses. Kill him on the spot, the leader of the Leaf family said darkly. 18 people, 18 immortal reaching realm cultivators. Even a 6th-tier immortal reaching realm cultivator would be shaken by such a force. Lin Tian was no exception. His expression became very solemn. However, despite his solemn expression, there was no fear in his eyes. Silver light flashed outside his body, and lines of formation runes appeared in the void. 6th-tier formation runes, confinement runes. Whoosh! The confinement runes turned into light chains. There were hundreds of them, and they spiraled out in all directions. He had carved a complete 6th-tier killing formation, and at the same time, he had carved a dense confinement runes. These formation runes were very simple, the most basic 6th-tier formation runes. However, once there were enough of them, they could have a miraculous effect of defeating the enemy. Break! Get out of my way! The people from the Altong sacred ground and Taishian sacred ground roared. The leaders broke the confinement runes in front of them. Dozens of divine power combined, and the majestic pressure rushed toward the center. Lin Tian trembled violently, and blood spilled from his mouth. He was very strong, but his cultivation was only at the 4th heaven of the Zephyr realm. How could he be a match for 18 immortal reaching realm cultivators at the same time? Moreover, the battle with Kong Yu, Zhou Yi, and the other 7 disciples had already consumed more than half of his vital essence and soul power. His current combat strength was less than half of his peak. He was shocked by the aura of the 18 people and took a step back. Although his heart was heavy, his eyes were bright as he looked for a breakthrough. Finally, after more than 10 breaths, when the 18 people were 3 feet away from him, he found an empty spot. This place was surrounded by cultivators of the 2nd heaven of the immortal reaching realm, and they posed the least threat to him. Buzz! The space between his eyebrows glowed brightly as he activated the Yin-Yang Lotus Sea. Instantly, black and white lotus petals swept out in all directions like a hurricane. After this, he bent his body slightly. The Yin and Yang Liang flashed like an arrow leaving the bowstring, turning into a streak of lightning as he charged towards Kong Min, the weakest of the 18 people. You are courting death. You still want to escape? Dream on. Kill. In that direction, the eyes of several immortal reaching realm cultivators were cold. At the same time, they activated their powerful divine abilities and pressed down on Lin Tian. Lin Tian gritted his teeth and did not dodge. He activated the divine ring palace to protect himself and rushed forward. Now he did not have much true essence left. If he fought with the people in front of him at this time, it would definitely delay him and allow the immortal channeling cultivators in the other positions to surround him. That would make him very dangerous. At this moment, he used the Yin-Yang Lotus Sea to temporarily obstruct the people in other positions while he stepped on the Yin-Yang Ho and charged forward madly. With a boom, he charged into the divine abilities of the few immortal reaching realm experts in front of him. The king's region was instantly shattered. Cough! His body shook violently, and he immediately coughed up blood. He was severely injured. However, he did not stop there. He waved his right fist, shaking the void. With his peak physical strength, he threw his strongest punch forward. He coughed up a few more mouthfuls of blood and shook the few immortal reaching realm cultivators in front of him away, opening a gap. Damn it! Stop him! Someone's expression changed. 3 immortal reaching realm cultivators acted. They blocked all the black and white lotus petals and stepped towards Lin Tian. Blood gushed out of Lin Tian's mouth. Seeing the 3 approaching, he immediately felt a chill down his spine. He had been injured in the battle with Kong Yuzhou and Yi Qiqing, so he didn't even have 30% of his Zhen Yuan left. Just now, in order to break through the gap. He had suffered heavy injuries and consumed a lot of his Zhen Yuan. Now his body was empty, with only 10% of his Zhen Yuan remaining. His right leg stepped on the ground. He stepped on the yin and yang ho and rushed madly towards the deepest part of the stone forest. At this moment, he could only escape to the space-time portal in the depths of the forest. Otherwise, once he was surrounded by the 18 people again, there would only be one outcome waiting for him: death. Moreover, he would definitely be tortured to death. "Beast, don't even think about escaping," the leader of Tai Xian roared. "Kill!" The leader of Wantong roared. The saint was killed. The people from the two holy lands almost went crazy. Their killing intent seemed to engulf everything around them. The eyes of the people from the Li family were cold, and their killing intent was not weak. Lin Tian had killed many elders of the Li family. The 18 people attacked at the same time. With a simple palm strike, the sky was filled with brilliance. Bang! Lin Tian was directly sent flying by the momentum and coughed up blood. He landed on the ground dozens of feet away. He felt as if all the bones in his body were about to break. He was in extreme pain and had suffered an unimaginable injury. However, his eyes were very cold. He did not make any counterattack and quickly rushed into the depths of the forest. In the next quarter of an hour, he was chased by the 18 people all the way. He was seriously injured again and again. Blood kept flowing out of his mouth, and he was almost killed dozens of times. At this time, a huge stone finally appeared in front of him. An ancient aura came from it, and a purple beam of light crossed it as if it had been there since the primitive era. There was a flash of light in his eyes. Enduring the severe pain, he stepped onto the stone. "Even if you enter the space-time portal, we must kill you. At most, we will chase you to the third heaven," the leader of the Taishan Holy Land said coldly. The 18 people exuded terrifying killing intent. They would not give up until they killed Lin Tian, even if they had to chase him to the third heaven. Lin Tian's mouth was stained with blood. His face was pale, but his eyes were cold. He spread out his left hand, and lines of formation patterns intertwined into a formation pattern ball with a diameter of an inch. There were traces of thunder and lightning intertwined on it. "I can make it explode at any time. If you want to die in the space-time tunnel with me, then come in." "You." The 18 people's expressions changed. Passing through the space-time tunnel was a very dangerous thing. It required the traveler to not move. If Lin Tian really exploded the lightning rune in his hand, although the power would not be too terrifying, it would still cause a drastic change in the space-time tunnel. Encountering a drastic change in the space-time tunnel, even a great virtue realm existence would encounter a great disaster and die. They rushed in with Lin Tian. If Lin Tian really went all out, he could definitely drag them to their deaths. For a moment, the 18 people stopped in their tracks. No one was not afraid of death, even though they all wanted to kill Lin Tian. "I don't believe you dare to do that," the leader of the Wantong Holy Land said. The 18 people slowly pressed forward. "You can give it a try." Lin Tian Dao. He glanced at the 18 people coldly. He did not stay. Holding the lightning rune, he stepped into the space-time portal. In the blink of an eye, his figure disappeared from the sight of the 18 people. The 18 people were shocked and angry. Some people stepped forward, but they stopped in their tracks. These people were afraid that if Lin Tian really detonated the lightning rune in the space-time tunnel, they would die without a doubt. The 18 people hesitated, stepped forward, and stopped again. Soon, half an hour passed in the blink of an eye. "Damn it!" An angry roar sounded, shaking all directions. In the end, the 18 people did not have the courage to chase after him. They were all afraid of death. For a time, only the angry roar echoed in this space. The boundless darkness was hazy. Lin Tianzhua held the lightning-controlling rune in his hand and stood there motionlessly. After an unknown amount of time, a light appeared in front of him, and a strong force shook him out of the darkness. Looking around, he was now in an oasis. Behind him was a stone platform, and a purple light beam lay horizontally on it, surrounded by the ancient fluctuations of time. The third heaven. The spiritual energy in the air was very rich. Lin Tian knew that this was the third heaven because the space-time portal's transmission would not go wrong. With blood at the corner of his mouth, he didn't look around too much and rushed directly into the distance. He didn't know where to go, so he just followed a direction at random. Stepping on the yin and yang puppet, he ran at the fastest speed. He was worried that the 18 people would really follow him, although he knew that the probability of them following him was very small. His speed was very fast. After running for a long time, he appeared in a relatively ordinary green mountain, and the sound of birds echoed. At this point, the true essence in his body was completely dried up, and the severe pain in his body became even more intense. Even his vision became blurred, and there were waves of dizziness in his head. His steps became a little shaky. At the fourth heaven of the Imperial Air Realm, he killed 2 young Supremes at the seventh heaven of the Imperial Air Realm with one blow, and then was chased by 18 seniors of the Immortal Ascension Realm. It was already a miracle that he could come here alive. At this time, his whole body was covered with injuries, and he really couldn't hold on anymore. After a few more steps, his vision finally turned black, and he fell down head-on. His clothes were stained with blood, and the grass under him was dyed red. The sound of birds echoed in the forest, and the sunlight fell into the forest through the gaps of the leaves, showing spots on his body. In the distance, a figure suddenly came over. It was a woman, and her clothes were very ordinary. Her face was covered with a thin veil, and only a pair of eyes could be seen. They were very clean, like colored glass. When she came closer and saw Lin Tian lying on the ground, the woman squatted down and gently pushed Lin Tian's body. "Wake up! Wake up!" The woman's voice was very soft and pleasant, but it made people feel that she was very weak. The woman gently pushed Lin Tian a few more times, but at this moment, how could Lin Tian feel anything? In the end, the woman struggled to help Lin Tian up. Her steps were a little difficult, and she walked out of the small forest. Obviously, she didn't have much strength. After more than 2 hours, a small village appeared in front of them. The woman helped Lin Tian into a stone house at the edge of the small village. The stone house looked a little shabby, and there was only one bed in it. It looked clean and tidy. Chapter 510. After placing Lin Tian on the bed, the woman walked to the hut next door. Soon, she took out some white gauze and helped Lin Tian clean up his injuries. About an hour later, the blood on Lin Tian's body was wiped clean, but the bed was stained red. Please search Product Percent Book Yin Yin Net to see the most complete. The woman wiped the sweat from her forehead, got up, and walked away. She took some dried herbs and went to the hut next door. Sunlight shone down from the sky, sprinkling down one after another. Not long after, the sky darkened, and the stars and the full moon appeared. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. Lin Tian felt a lot of pain in his body, but he felt more comfortable. His eyelids trembled a few times before he finally opened them. As he scanned his surroundings, he was momentarily stunned. He was now in a stone hut, looking down at himself. His chest and arms were wrapped in white gauze. "You're awake," a soft voice sounded. A woman walked out of the hut next door with a small porcelain bowl in her hand. Lin Tian was stunned. There are many ferocious beasts in the mountains. I saw that you fainted there and thought that you might attract the beasts. It's very dangerous, so I brought you back." The woman's voice was very soft. She walked forward. "This is herbal medicine. Can you drink it by yourself now?" When Lin Tian heard the woman's voice, he was able to determine her age. She was around 16 years old and was a young lady in her prime. Moreover, from her words and what he saw, he also understood that it was this young girl who saved him when he was seriously injured and unconscious that day. She helped him treat his injuries and seemed to have been feeding him herbal medicine these days. "Yes." He nodded. As soon as he sat up, he felt a sharp pain in his body. He could not help but frown. "Let me do it." "You're seriously injured," the young girl said. There was a wooden spoon in the porcelain bowl. The young girl picked up the spoon and handed the medicine to Lin Tian. Lin Tian looked a little embarrassed, but he did not refuse and let the young girl feed him. The taste of the herbal medicine was very ordinary. It did have the effect of healing injuries and strengthening the body, but it was not very good. It was not even comparable to a first-grade Baodan. It can only be said that it was very good in the mortal world. Lin Tian didn't mind. Why did he have to mind? Even though there were many Baodan in his stone ring, some even at the 5th grade, which could quickly heal his injuries, right now he didn't take them out. He quietly finished the medicinal herbs the young girl fed him. I'll make another bowl for you at night, twice a day. Rest well for a few days, and you should be able to recover. The young lady said. Okay. Lin Tian asked, by the way, how long have I been in a coma? 3 days. Oh. Lin Tian nodded, feeling relieved. Since no one found this place after being unconscious for 3 days, it means that the people from Wantong Holy Land and Taixien Holy Land didn't chase them to the 3rd heaven. Or it could be said that even if they chased after him and didn't find him within 3 days, the chances of finding him after that were very slim, less than 1%. It wasn't until this time that he carefully glanced at the house again. The house was very simple, and it looked a little shabby. He noticed that there was only one bed in the house, and he happened to be lying on it. Moreover, the bed was stained with his blood. This suddenly made him feel a little embarrassed. I'm sorry. A man actually occupied the bed of a young girl, and he occupied it for 3 days, even though he didn't feel anything during these 3 days. It's okay. There's a place to rest in the hut next door, the young lady said. She walked into the hut next door, put down the porcelain bowl filled with medicinal herbs, and quickly came out with a basket in her hand. I'm going to the mountain to pick some herbs. You take care of your injuries and don't move around, the young lady said. Okay. Lin Tian nodded and asked, by the way, may I ask, what is your name? The young lady paused for a moment, looked at Lin Tian, and said, Shui Yi. Shui Yi? Lin Tian Wei was stunned. The young lady nodded. I was born on a snowy night. My mother named me Shui Yi. What a beautiful name. I'm Lin Tian. Thank you for saving me and treating my injuries. Lin Tian said. The young lady's eyes flashed, and she nodded and walked out of the stone hut. When she left, she carefully closed the wooden door of the stone hut. Lin Tian Wei smiled and looked at the white gauze wrapped around his body. Recover soon, he said to himself. He closed his eyes, and the vital essence in his body was very weak. The 4 extremes meridians slowly operated, flowing through the meridians in his body. He leaned against the stone wall as if he was taking a nap. In the blink of an eye, 6 hours passed. At this moment, a burst of noise came from outside the hut, waking Lin Tian up. Get out! Get out of the village! Devil, how long do you want to stay in our village? You cursed family! As long as you're here, the village will never have peace. Get out! A series of voices came from outside the stone hut. Lin Tian's vital essence recovered a little, and his injuries were much better. Hearing these voices, he frowned slightly, got out of bed, and walked out. On the way, he passed by a small hut. He stopped to look inside and was immediately moved. There were many things neatly piled up in the hut. There was a stove, a small stove for staying up all night, and many other things. In the corner, there was a shabby wooden chair with a cloth sheet on it. It seemed that someone was resting there at night. Lin Tian's heart skipped a beat. At night, the young lady must be resting on a wooden chair. However, there was only a thin sheet covering her body. One must know that it was currently winter and the weather was not warm. How could such a thin sheet be enough to keep her warm? How could a worn-out wooden chair be considered a place to rest? The young lady obviously did not want him to feel apologetic for taking up her bed, so she deliberately said that there was a place to rest in the hut. She was very kind and considerate. For a stranger like him to do this, Lin Tian was really touched. Get out! Get out! You demonic woman! The noise in the fog became louder. Lin Tian pushed open the wooden door of the stone hut and looked ahead. Dozens of villagers were gathered together. Almost all of them were young and strong, but there were also some women. They were shouting angrily. Lin Tian's eyesight was amazing. He took a quick look, and his expression changed. The person in the middle was the young lady who saved him. At this moment, she was lying on the ground with her head lowered. Get out of this village! You damned demon! Get out! Go to hell! Only when you leave can the village be at peace. Many people shouted angrily. Some people even picked up stones and threw them at the young lady. The young lady fell to the ground and did not say a word. She just lowered her head and covered it with her hands. Lin Tian's heart was suddenly filled with anger. He saw someone pick up a large round stone with a diameter of 4 inches and throw it at the young lady. If it hit the young lady, she would be seriously injured even if she did not die. He moved his feet and appeared in front of the young lady in an instant. With a backhand palm, he shattered the large stone near the young lady. The group of villagers around the young lady changed their expressions. Someone could shatter a large stone with a single palm. What great strength! The young lady covered her head and looked ahead. Although she only saw a pair of legs, she remembered Lin Tian's clothes and recognized him. Why did Lin Tian come out? Also, how did he appear just now? The villagers were stunned for a moment, but soon they started to clamor again. Who is it? How dare you protect this demon? Don't get in our way. Curse guy, get out. These people's words were vicious. Many people picked up small stones from the ground and threw them towards the middle of the crowd. Almost all of them were thrown towards the young girl. This made Lin Tian even angrier. This young lady saved him from the Green Mountain, carefully treated his injuries, boiled medicine for him, and gave him the only bed in the house, but said that she had a place to rest. Now, these people dared to treat this young lady like this. This made a chill rise from the bottom of his heart, and a faint trace of killing intent spread out. You people, don't go too far, he said coldly. With a boom, a majestic force rushed out of his body. A hurricane suddenly appeared in this space, shattering all the stones that were flying at him. Moreover, an extremely cold aura swept out, causing the people outside to tremble in fear. Many people even fell to the ground on their butts, their legs shaking uncontrollably. These villagers' words were too vicious. Although he did not know what happened in this village, these people slandered the young lady, calling her a demon or a demon, and saying that she deserved to die. It was too much for him to bear. Such a kind girl would even save a stranger like him and take good care of him. How could she be a demon? His eyes were ice cold. If these villagers were not ordinary people, he would even have the heart to cripple them. Meeting his gaze, the surrounding villagers became even more fearful. Everyone was trembling. At this moment, the young lady tugged at his trousers. Lin Tian could naturally feel it. The coldness in his eyes dissipated, and he turned around to look at the young lady. When he turned around, he was shocked. The young lady's veil had fallen off at some point, revealing an extremely delicate face. It was comparable to Bai Qiu's. However, half of this delicate face was covered in green scales. Lin Tian was stunned, but in the next moment, he reacted and felt guilty. The young lady must have covered her face with a veil because she did not want to be seen by others. The villagers must have despised her because of this, and spoke ill of her. Now, when he saw the green scales on the young lady's face, he was shocked. This undoubtedly hurt the young lady. I'm sorry. He hurriedly apologized, squatting down to help the young lady up and cover her face. The young lady shook her head. With Lin Tian's help, she picked up the medicine basket on the ground and scattered many herbs. Chapter 5:11. Lin Tian helped the young girl into the stone house and closed the wooden door behind him. The faces of the villagers really made him feel a little ugly. There was only one bed in the house, and it was stained with blood. He was a little embarrassed, but he couldn't help the girl to the wooden chair next to the house. In the end, he could only awkwardly help the girl to the bed. Sorry, he said. The girl shook her head and said softly, I'm fine. It's okay. There was a lot of dust on her clothes. She patted them a few times and frowned slightly. She felt a little pain. Just now, the villagers threw a lot of stones at her. She only covered her head, but some other places couldn't avoid being hit by stones thrown by the villagers. Lin Tian opened his mouth and hesitated. He asked, were the villagers like this before? The girl didn't answer. She showed her face slightly. Don't you think it's like a demon? Aren't you afraid? Lin Tian Wei was stunned and then shook his head. No, I'm not afraid. You're Shui Yi. not a demon. There's no such kind demon. He said it very seriously. The girl's eyes flickered, and she covered her face again. Thank you for saying that. Also, thank you for asking my name before. Thank you for calling my name. The girl lowered her head and said softly, It's been a long time since someone asked my name. It's also been a long time since someone called me by my name. They all call me demon, witch monster. The girl said it very calmly. There was no grievance or sadness. It was just that her voice was a little soft. As such, Lin Tian felt his heart tremble even more. Have the villagers been like this all these years? He asked again. It used to be like this, but it wasn't as serious as today. Maybe it has to do with the unrest in the village recently. It's very unpeaceful. What's the problem? Why didn't you leave when they treated you like this? He was a little confused. Looking at the stone house, he understood. The damage of the stone house should have been done by the villagers. There were traces of big stones hitting it. The girl shook her head. She didn't want to say more. You're injured. Rest first. With that, the girl got off the bed and walked to the house next door. Lin Tian hurriedly stopped her. You rest here. I'll go inside. I'm thicker. I'm not afraid of the cold. The girl's eyes flickered. She seemed a little embarrassed as she whispered, I didn't mean to lie to you. I know. Don't apologize. This is clearly my fault. He let the girl lie down and covered her with a blanket before walking to the next room. The young girl watched as Lin Tian entered the house. Her small hands pulled the blanket over her body, covering her face below her eyes. She muttered to herself, Thank you. Over the years, ever since the green scales appeared on her face, the villagers, who were initially very harmonious, gradually distanced themselves from her. Then, they began to ridicule her, hurl insults at her, and even gradually some people began to lay hands on her. As for those who saw her true appearance, almost all of them instantly distanced themselves from her and disdained her, to the extent that she had to cover her face. Now that Lin Tian had seen her true appearance, not only did he not distance himself from her, he even showed some concern for her. He even pulled the blanket over her body. Although this action was very small, it made her feel warmth that she had not felt in a long time. Lin Tian had already entered the house, but he still heard the girl's final thank you. This made him feel very uncomfortable. From beginning to end, the girl was very calm when she was scolded and attacked by the villagers. When she spoke to him, although her voice was very soft, it was not mixed with any grievance. This also showed that the girl was used to being treated like this. The initial grievance had been washed away by the passage of time. He lay on the wooden chair, unable to calm down for a long time. After an unknown amount of time, he closed his eyes. The four extremes meridians began to slowly circulate, and the vital energy quietly circulated in his body. Soon, the sky darkened, and the full moon and the stars were faintly visible. At night, there were the roars of wild beasts in the mountains outside the village. There were also some other strange sounds that echoed in the darkness for a long time. Lin Tian closed his eyes. The four extremes meridians began to circulate automatically. Although the circulation was very slow, his injuries were slowly recovering. The night passed quickly. When Lin Tian woke up, the sky was already bright. There was a round sun hanging high in the sky, but it was not hot at all. He walked out of the house and found that the girl was gone. She only left a note for him by the bed. It said, I have something to do at the back of the mountain. There is dry food and spring water in the house. Take care of your injuries. Lin Tian looked at the note and put it down. Then, he sat cross-legged by the bed and circulated the four extremes meridians. A faint silver glow appeared on the surface of his body. Buzz! Gradually, the silver glow came out of his body and became stronger. The speed of recovery also became faster. He focused on healing his injuries. He was not worried that someone would break in. Soon, 6 hours had passed. At this time, it was already noon. Lin Tian got up and found that the girl still had not returned. He could not help but be slightly worried. He heard from the girl that there were many fierce wild beasts at the back of the mountain. If such a weak girl encountered a fierce beast attack, would she be able to deal with it? Thinking of this, he opened the door of the stone house and glanced around. Then he walked toward the back of the mountain. The back of the mountain was not too far away from the village. He walked out of the village and walked along a small path toward the back of the mountain. Not long after he left the village, there were quite a few people in front of him. They were all heading towards the mountains. Moreover, there were even more people coming from different directions. All of them were cultivators. Moreover, their cultivation levels were all above the spiritual sea realm. Hey. Does the Lingjing really exist in this shabby mountain of a mortal village? I can't say for sure, but according to the rumors, it does exist. Let's go and see. Some people were discussing. Lin Tian frowned. The Lingjing? It was the first time he heard of the Lingjing. He did not know what it was. Pausing for a moment, he shook his head and continued to walk forward. There was only one path that led to the depths of the mountain behind the village. There were many cultivators on the path. Almost all of them were young. A young man walked beside him. His eyes were somewhat bright. He stared at the beautiful women in front of him. His gaze was very wretched, and he would laugh from time to time. Not long after, the few female cultivators in front seemed to have noticed the young man's gaze. They turned around and glared at the young man. Then they quickened their pace. In the blink of an eye, they were far away. The young man seemed to be somewhat regretful. His gaze quickly fell on the other female cultivators. Suddenly, he clicked his tongue and sighed. From time to time, he would rub his hands together. In the blink of an eye, he attracted a wave of merciless curses. Lin Tian glanced at the young man and took a few steps to the side. Huh? Brother, why did you take a step to the side? The young man was curious. As he spoke, the young man took a few steps forward. The distance between him and Lin Tian was closer. The road is so wide. Can you not be so close to me? Lin Tian Dao. In front of him, the few women who were being peeped at by the young man turned around and glared at him from time to time. He was also affected. Some people were pointing at him. Obviously, they thought he was the companion of the wretched young man. Come closer. Aren't we close? As the saying goes, the road is wide, and the four seas are all brothers. Don't you think so? The young man was very heroic. I don't want to be treated as a pervert. Lin Tian was very direct. The few women in front of him glared at the young man. Even he glared at him. It made him feel inexplicably like he was in trouble. The young man's eyes lit up. Brother, you also know the word pervert? Are you one of my generation? Lin Tian glanced at the young man. He was very puzzled by the light in the young man's eyes. I'm sorry, we're not of the same generation. Also, let me add one more thing. Pervert is a derogatory term, he said. The young man was slightly disappointed. However, he quickly shook his head. Brother, it seems that you have a prejudice against perverts. Regarding this, I have to discuss it with you. As he spoke, the young man moved closer and put his arm around Lin Tian's neck. He pointed to the front and said, Look at that woman. Her, but is perky and full of elasticity. Pinch it. It must be very nice. Look at that beauty over there. Her waist is slender and full. It must be very comfortable to hug her. Hooking his arm around Lin Tian's neck, the young man pointed to the other side. Look at that woman. Her breasts are tall and full. It must be very nice to touch. Over there, her lips are like cherries. She must be gentle and sweet. Over there, her skin is smooth, and the air seems to be full of fragrance. If you can smell her up close, wouldn't it be wonderful? How can ordinary people notice these? The young man did not suppress his voice at all. The cultivators on the road heard him clearly and secretly cursed him for being shameless. The few women who were criticized were even more furious. They pointed at the young man and glared at him, calling him a pervert. Don't be polite. Discovering your beauty is something that my generation should do. Don't get too excited. If you get too excited, you'll get wrinkles. The young man waved at the women. The women were so angry that their bodies trembled. This time, they really sped up and soon disappeared. The young man smiled and said to Lin Tiandao, Did you see that? When I mentioned their strengths, their happiness immediately showed. They were so excited. Some of them even blushed because they were too embarrassed to accept my praise in public. They ran away. Perhaps they'll come find me in private later. Lin Tian. He opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but in the end he decided against it. Seeing that Lin Tian did not say anything, the young man smiled again and said, "Actually, the outside world has a lot of misunderstandings about us perverts. We work hard and are not afraid of bad words. We take it as our duty to discover the various strengths of the women in the world. We always walk on the sharp edge of the knife's edge, just to let the women know how beautiful they are." Looking ahead, the young man sighed slightly. With a kind of indifference, he said, "The so-called perverts are actually true love." Lin Tian's mouth twitched unnaturally. After a while, he said, "Scram." Chapter 512. Lin Tian was really speechless. What else can he say to a person who can interpret the word pervert in such a glorious and righteous way? Apart from contempt, there is really nothing else. Of course, if one has to add a little more, it should be a little bit of admiration. After all, it's really not easy for a person to have such a thick face. Please search Taste Book Yin Network to see the most complete novel. By the way, brother, I'm Ling Yin. What about you? Ling Yin put his arm around Lin Tian's neck and said, "Lin Tian." Lin Tian said simply, "Although this young man is very wretched and shameless, he's not annoying. Brother Lin, we hit it off at first sight. We hit it off at first sight." Ling Yin laughed. Having said that, he patted Lin Tian's shoulder heavily. Lin Tian was really a little speechless for such a friendly person. He was too lazy to say anything and walked straight forward. The girl went to the back mountain and hasn't returned for a long time. He was really worried. When he came to the third heaven from the second heaven, he was seriously injured and fainted in the mountains. Any beast could have eaten him clean. At that time, the girl brought him back to the stone house and took care of him carefully. It can be said that she is his savior. "Hey, brother, look at the beauty over there. That but TSK, TSK. There, look at that figure. If you hold it in your arms, it will definitely be. You know. Look at that one. Her eyes are full of love. Her mouth is red and moist, intoxicated." Ling Yun's eyes lit up. In front of him, the girl looked back angrily. "Two perverts. Lecher. Shameless." Someone cursed. A few black lines immediately appeared on Lin Tian's forehead. He really wanted to send the young man beside him flying with a kick, as he had suffered yet again. "Brother, you see—" "Shut up," Lin Tian shouted in a low voice. Ling Yun. Seeing that the pervert finally stopped talking, Lin Tian breathed a sigh of relief and walked deeper into the back mountain. "That Ling Jing, I heard that she's not that big, right? About the size of a skull. How big do you want?" "That's Ling Jing." "That's right. Don't be too greedy. Besides, if that Ling Jing is really that big, why would we need to look for her? That's not bad. All right, let's go." A group of cultivators whispered to each other. Then, they sped up. There were other cultivators on this path as well. Almost all of them were around 26 years old, and their destination was the same. Lin Tianwei frowned slightly. These people seem to be here for the so-called Ling Jing. "Do you know what Ling Jing is?" he asked Ling Yun. Ling Yun was stunned and looked at Lin Tian as if he was looking at a treasure. "You don't know Ling Jing?" Lin Tian shook his head. He really didn't know. "Brother, are you from this world? You actually don't know about Ling Jing?" Ling Yun was surprised. Lin Tian's expression didn't change. "I've been cultivating in the depths of the mountains. This is the first time I've come out into the world." He used the same words he said to Bai Qiu when he first arrived in the second heaven. Ling Yun glanced at him suspiciously and explained, "You should know about spiritual veins, right? They are condensed from the rich spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Generally, they exist in the shape of a snake. They have unimaginable benefits for cultivation, alchemy, and weapon forging. Ling Jing is also condensed from the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. However, it is countless times more condensed than the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. A piece of Ling Jing the size of a skull can almost be compared to an ordinary spiritual vein." "What?" Lin Tianyi was shocked. When he was in the second heaven, he and Bai Qiu went to the sea to gain experience and found an ordinary spiritual vein. It was as thick as an adult's waist and about 5 meters long. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth contained in a piece of lingjing the size of a skull can be compared to such a spiritual vein? This comparison was a bit exaggerated no matter how he looked at it. You don't think it's possible? Ling Yun saw Lin Tian's surprise. Let me give a simple example. Two equal amounts of spiritual energy. One condenses into a spiritual vein, and the other condenses into a piece of lingjing the size of a skull. They are different in size, but the amount of spiritual energy they condense is the same. Lin Tian was moved and immediately understood. So that's how it is. As he said, he frowned again. He was still a little surprised. One must know that it is very difficult to condense the spiritual energy of heaven and earth into a spiritual vein. It takes a very long time to do so. As for a piece of lingjing, it is enough to imagine that it will be even more difficult and take a longer time to condense. Ling Yun continued. A piece of lingjing condensed from the same amount of spiritual energy has some other effects compared to a spiritual vein. It can allow a cultivator to refine their true yuan better. Moreover, it has a great effect on the condensation of divine power and the reconstruction of the physique. These effects are not comparable to an ordinary spiritual vein. It can be said that there is a world of difference. In addition, lingjing can be used as the source energy of some large formations. It can even be used to replenish true yuan and divine power. Ling Yun continued. Of course, a spiritual vein can also be used. However, can you carry a spiritual vein with you? Of course not, but a piece of lingjing can. In some times of danger, a piece of lingjing can be said to be a life-saving thing. Lin Tian was surprised. In that case, the value of lingjing was indeed very amazing. No wonder so many people came to compete for it. Are you here for that piece of lingjing? He asked Ling Yun. No. Ling Yun shook his head. Lin Tianwei was puzzled. No. Then what are you here for? Digging for beauty. Ling Yun's eyes glowed. He looked extremely wretched. Lin Tian looked askance at Ling Yun. He did not want to talk to him. Looking ahead, he frowned slightly. These cultivators had come for lingjing. There were many of them, and they seemed to be heading in the same direction as the girl. This made him even more worried. His footsteps quickened. Don't be anxious. There are many people coming to compete for lingjing this time. I think there will be a fierce battle. If we want to compete, we can be the oriole behind the mantis stalking the cicada. Save energy. Ling Yun thought that Lin Tian was attracted to that piece of lingjing. Lin Tian did not say anything. He shook off the youth's hand that was hooked around his neck and quickened his steps. Hey, brother, wait. Ling Yun called out. In the mountains, the trees on both sides retreated quickly. From time to time, the roars of wild beasts could be heard. Occasionally, a demon tiger would even rush out of the forest to attack Lin Tian and Ling Yun. However, the outcome was undoubtedly tragic. It was directly slapped away by Lin Tianyi. As they moved forward, the air gradually became colder. A cold wind blew. Not long after, a small valley appeared in front of them. There was some gray fog floating in the valley. Many cultivators were walking into the valley. Lin Tian's eyes twitched when he arrived. His spiritual sense was very strong. He sensed the aura of the girl in the air outside the valley. Without stopping, he quickly walked into the valley. There were already many cultivators entering the valley. He was worried about the girl's safety. After all, she was just an ordinary girl. Slow down, brother. There's no rush. Ling Yun called out from behind. The air in the valley was even colder. As they walked into the valley, the black fog in the air became thicker. It was Yin Shi. This made Lin Tian frown. Why would there be Yin Shi in this place? He continued to walk in. Not long after, he heard exclamations from the front. There are so many Yin spirits and spirits here. That girl who is she? Voices floated over. When Lin Tian heard the word girl, his heart skipped a beat. He sped up and rushed to the front. He pushed aside some people and found that the valley in front of him had collapsed. It was about 60 to 70 feet deep. The diameter was more than 10 feet. It was like a huge sinkhole. More black fog floated out from a black hole at the bottom of the sinkhole. However, this was nothing. Not only was there black fog floating out from the black hole, but there were also spirits rushing out from time to time. They were like vengeful spirits from hell. Their faces were ferocious, and they roared. However, none of these spirits rushed out of the sinkhole. That was because there was a girl standing at the bottom of the sinkhole. Circles of strange black light intertwined around the girl's body. Those spirits that rushed out were all absorbed into her body. Lin Tian's expression changed. This was Shui. Shui, that delicate girl, was actually absorbing the spirits here. This girl, what's going on? How did she do it? It feels like she doesn't have any true essence in her body. She doesn't seem like a cultivator. Many people were surprised. However, even though they were surprised, these people were cultivators. They could immediately sense that this girl was not ordinary. Suddenly, the sound of something breaking through the air rang out. 3 figures jumped down from the sinkhole and rushed towards the girl. This girl is not ordinary. Suppress her first and bring her back to the sect, one of them said. These 3 young men were about 25 years old. All of them were extraordinary, causing many people to be shocked. Those are disciples of the Golden Fire Tao sect. This big sect actually has disciples in such a remote place. On the sinkhole, someone recognized the 3 of them. It was also at this time that the 3 young men had already reached the bottom of the sinkhole. One of them made a move and directly waved a palm wind at the girl, sending her flying on the spot. After that, another person walked out and walked towards the girl. It was obvious that he wanted to control the girl in his hands. F***CK, these 3 bastards from the Golden Fire Tao sect. They actually attacked a girl like this. Bastards! Ling Yin scolded and took a step forward. At this moment, a shocking chill rushed from the side, causing him to tremble and stop in his tracks. Lin Tian's eyes were filled with killing intent. In an instant, he disappeared on the spot and appeared at the bottom of the sinkhole in the next moment, catching the girl who was flying backwards. Just now, when he saw the girl absorbing the spirits, he was really shocked. While he was shocked, someone inexplicably attacked the girl. He did not even have time to react. It was only when he saw the girl being sent flying that he finally recovered from his shock. In an instant, the anger in his heart erupted like a volcano. Who is it? How dare you stop the Golden Plume Tao sect? Chapter 513. Lin Tian was really angry. Yesterday, when he saw the girl being bullied by the villagers, because those people were ordinary people, he could only suppress his anger in the bottom of his heart. But now a few cultivators also bullied the girl like this. They attacked the girl for no reason and sent her flying. How could he endure this? This young girl had saved his life. She was his savior. Zijin, the young man who attacked the girl, just now was moved. At the same time, all the cultivators above the sinkhole also changed their expressions. Who was that person? Just now. How did he go to the bottom of the sinkhole? I don't know, I didn't see it. However, he actually dared to draw his sword against a disciple of the Golden Fire Tao sect. Many people were shocked. Ling Yun was moved and looked at Lin Tian with some surprise. This guy, did he know that girl? Suddenly, a cold feeling rushed out from the sinkhole. At the bottom of the sinkhole, the young man who was sent flying by Lin Tian had already stood up. There was a deep, bloody scar on his chest, and one of his arms was almost cut off. His face was filled with shock and anger. Beside him, the other 2 young men's eyes were also very cold. You have guts, the leader said. Of these 3 people, the young man who was injured by Lin Tian was dressed in yellow, and the other 2 young men were dressed in green and blue respectively. Their auras were not weak. Among them, the yellow-clothed young man and the green-clothed young man were at the peak of the sea of consciousness. The blue-clothed young man was even stronger and was at the 2nd level of the Zephyr realm. Just now, it was the green-clothed young man who attacked the girl and sent her flying. Lin Tian stared at the 3 of them, his eyes as cold as ice. Lin, a weak voice came from his bosom. The girl did not faint. Her eyelids trembled slightly, and the veil covering her face fell off. There were even more scales on her face, and there was even some black color. This caused Lin Tian to be shocked. The girl was a little weak. She wanted to call out Lin Tian's name, but after calling out Lin, she could not say another word. "Don't talk, I'm here," he said softly. Then, he quickly covered the girl's face. "I'm talking to you. Can't you hear me?" A cold voice sounded. The three youths looked over. The person who was injured by Lin Tian swallowed a healing Baodan, and his injuries were slowly recovering. The young man in green took a step forward and stared at Lin Tian with a cruel look in his eyes. This is bad, this young man. How can anyone who offends the Golden Fire Dao Gate have a good ending? Exactly. Many people were whispering and pointing at Lin Tian. Lin Tian crouched down, one hand holding the girl in his arms, the other holding the long sword. He raised his head and looked forward. "You were the one who hurt her just now." His voice was cold. The green-robed young man was stunned for a moment before he burst into laughter. "Although I don't know what relationship you have with her, you seem to be very angry." "That's right. I did hurt her, but so what? I hurt her. What can you do to me now?" Lin Tian stared at the man. "I want you dead." "You want me dead? Ah, what a joke. Do you think I'm—" Clang! The sound of the sword was ear-piercing. In the next moment, the green-robed young man's voice suddenly stopped. An array of blood sputtered out from his throat. With a bang, the green-robed young man fell to the ground. There was still a smile on his face, but his vitality had disappeared in an instant. At the bottom of the sinkhole, everyone was shocked, and their expressions changed drastically. Dead? He killed a disciple of the Golden Fire Dao Gate? Some people's hearts trembled. The Golden Fire Dao Gate was a big sect with a terrifying foundation. In this place, someone actually dared to kill a disciple of the Golden Fire Dao Gate. The young man named Ling Yun was also shocked. He did not expect Lin Tian to be so ruthless and kill him directly. However, at the same time, he also discovered another point, and a light flashed in his eyes. This guy's strength is terrifying. At the bottom of the sinkhole, the yellow-robed young man trembled. The green-robed young man had the same cultivation as him, but he was killed with a single sword strike, which made him feel a sense of fear. Boom! Suddenly, the sound of heavy footsteps rang out, causing everyone to be shocked. The blue-robed young man took a step forward with an extremely cold expression. "Hand her over. Destroy your own cultivation and end your own life." Looking down at Lin Tian, the blue-robed young man was like an emperor, as if everything was under his control. The yellow-robed young man was originally a little afraid, but when he saw the blue-robed young man walk out, the fear in his eyes immediately dissipated. The blue-robed young man was in the airborne realm, so he was very powerful. Damn it. What do you think the Golden Fire Dao Gate is? How dare you kill a disciple of the Golden Fire Dao Gate? Now, obediently do as senior brother says. Otherwise, you will suffer a fate worse than death. Just now, he was injured by Lin Tian's sword, which made the yellow-robed young man very uncomfortable. At this moment, his eyes became very sinister. Moreover, the girl in Lin Tian's arms was very unusual. She could actually absorb Yin's spirits and spirits. If he brought her back to the Golden Fire Dao Gate and handed her to some elders, he might be able to find something extraordinary. In this way, he and the blue-robed young man would be able to obtain a lot of benefits. Lin Tian tightened his grip on the sword. "You guys have designs on her? Cut the crap. Hand her over and kill yourself here. I will let you off lightly. Otherwise, you know the consequences." The yellow-robed young man said coldly. The blue-robed young man stood out. The yellow-robed young man no longer had any fear in his heart. His eyes were very sinister. The sword in Lin Tian's hand was shining with a cold light. Suddenly, a figure appeared by his side. Surprisingly, it was the young man called Ling Yun who had come with him. "You've already killed one person. Don't be rash. They are from the Golden Fire Dao Gate," Ling Yun said in a low voice. Lin Tian didn't even turn his head. There was only coldness and killing intent in his eyes. "So what?" Ling Yun explained and said to Lin Tian, "The Golden Fire Dao Gate is one of the 12 Dao sects in this realm. Their strength is very terrifying. Most importantly, this sect is very arrogant and very protective. You've already killed one person if you clang. The sound of the sword was ear-piercing, interrupting Ling Yun's words. With a puff, blood splattered. In front of him, the yellow-robed young man's throat was pierced. With a bang, he fell into a pool of blood. Ling Yun was stunned. He opened his mouth, but in the end, he could only reveal a helpless expression. This guy was really strong. He killed another one? He's hugging a young girl. He's squatting on the ground. He actually killed another powerhouse at the peak of the sea of consciousness. How terrifying. But that's a disciple of the Golden Fire Tao Gate. How can he be so bold? This, on the sinkhole, everyone was shocked. Some people's faces turned pale. The young girl lay in Lin Tian's arms. Although she was very weak, she could sense what was happening. Lin Tian killed 2 people for her. Lin Tian was not an ordinary person. Lin Tian had such strong strength. She was very grateful and felt very warm in her heart. She reached out and pulled Lin Tian's sleeve. She said in a weak voice, "No, don't kill people. They hurt you." Lin Tian said in a low voice, "No, I'm fine. No, it's okay." The young girl's voice was very soft. Lin Tian tightened his grip on the sword. This young girl, how many grievances had she suffered over the years? Being injured like this, it was very difficult for her to speak. However, there was no anger or grievance in her words. There was not even a trace of change in her emotions. This made him feel very uncomfortable. At the same time, it made him even angrier. At this moment, a cold intent came from the front. "You killed 2 people from the Golden Fire Tao Gate." "Very good." The young man in blue had a cold expression. His eyes were as sharp as a goshawk's. With a sharp chill, he pressed forward. "Idiot, get out of here," Ling Yun scolded. It was also at this moment that the sound of the sword rang out again. It almost cut through the void. Blood splattered. The young man in blue's throat was pierced. His footsteps immediately froze. "You!" Blood gushed out of his mouth. The indifference on the young man's face disappeared. A wave of fear swept up like the tide. However, it retreated in an instant because in the next moment he had lost all consciousness. Like the previous 2, he fell into a pool of blood with a bang. Such a scene directly frightened everyone. That young man in blue seems to be in the Imperial Sky Realm. He actually was also... Someone trembled. Staring at Lin Tian, everyone on the crater was stunned. Then, they all revealed expressions of fear. What a terrifying young man. Ling Yun looked at the young girl and shrugged slightly. He said to himself, "Drawing the sword gives off a cold light. Anger for a beauty." The young girl trembled slightly and lowered her head. Lin Tian put away the long sword. Silver light flickered in his right hand. Dense true essence continuously surged towards the young girl. "It'll be done soon," he said. His true essence was very dense. One could see that the young girl's face was gradually beginning to turn red. At this moment, a roar suddenly came from the black hole in front of them. Black fog rolled out from within. Then a number of Ean's spirits rushed out. There were several times more than before. All of them were ferocious. They covered the corpses of the young man in blue like evil spirits. In the blink of an eye, the 3 people's flesh and blood were cleanly devoured. Obviously, these Ean's spirits in the hole had sensed the smell of blood and rushed out. The young girl's eyes were anxious. She struggled slightly, trying to stand up from Lin Tian's arms. "Don't move," Lin Tian said. The young girl shook her head and said, "No, I can't. If I let them leave, the people in the village will suffer." Lin Tian frowned and was shocked. "Earlier, did you absorb those Ean spirits so that they wouldn't run into the village?" he asked. The young girl did not speak. She only struggled slightly, trying to stand up. This undoubtedly made Lin Tian understand a lot. Obviously, he guessed right. He remembered that last night, there was a strange roar coming from the back of the mountain. It should be the sound of the Ean spirits here. The girl must have discovered it. So she came here and used her body to absorb these Ean spirits to prevent them from harming the village. It's not the first time you've come here to absorb these spirits. You've done it before. Are the scales on your face the result of absorbing these spirits and souls? Have you been silently protecting that small village? He continued to ask. Just now, he saw that there were more scales on the young girl's face after she absorbed the spirits. These scales were obviously directly related to her absorption of spirits. Is it? Lin Tian asked again. The young girl was silent for a while. Finally, she spoke in a soft voice. My home is in the village. My mother also protected the village like this. Because Lin Tian increased the amount of true essence and transferred some pure soul power to the young girl's voice was not as choppy as before. Chapter 514. Hearing the girl's words, Lin Tian felt as if his heart had been stabbed by a sword. This girl, like her mother, silently protected the village, but she was ridiculed by the villagers. She was treated as a monster by the villagers, and some even hurt her. Even so, the girl never revealed the truth to the villagers, silently enduring the villagers' bullying and insults. How could this be? He didn't say anything else, but the vital essence in his palm grew thicker, gradually stabilizing the girl's injuries. The girl moved slightly, and Lin Tian helped her stand up. Thank you, the girl said softly and walked forward. She wanted to absorb all the spirits that ran out just like before. Let me do it. Lin Tian pulled the girl behind him. He waved a few black and white lotus petals and rushed forward. Poof! 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 The spirits that rushed out of the black hole didn't even have time to scream before they were instantly smashed into pieces by the lotus petals. This was the strange phenomenon in his sea of consciousness, and it had an absolute restraining effect on these spirits. Not bad. Ling Yun was slightly surprised. At the same time, some of the cultivators above the sinkhole were surprised as well. The spirits were nothing to these powerful sea of wisdom cultivators. However, Lin Tian had been able to cleanly wipe out all the spirits in the blink of an eye. This was clearly out of the ordinary, causing all the cultivators above to reveal looks of shock. Boom! Black fog billowed as it rushed out of the black cave. Soon after, more spirits and spirits rushed out from within. These spirits all had ferocious faces, and they gave people a very terrifying feeling. They pounced on living people as soon as they saw them. Lin Tian frowned, waved his hand again, and destroyed a large number of spirits. Have so many spirits rushed out like this before? He asked the girl. Once in a while. The girl nodded. Lin Tian sighed in his heart. Previously, he had seen the young lady absorb the spirits and spirits. Although he did not know how the young lady did it, he could tell that the young lady's body was damaged when she did it. The more spirits she absorbed, the greater the damage. This could be seen from the newly added scales on the young lady's face. He looked at the black hole in front of him and thought, today, I'll flatten this place. Then, the young girl won't have to suffer like this anymore. I've read some unofficial records before. The Ling Jing that exists here seems to have caused a scuffle between several small sects in the past. At that time, close to 1,000 people came here. It's said that all of them died here. Come to think of it, these spirits and souls should have been born after those cultivators died, due to some special reason. Ling Yun said, how many years has it been since that battle? Lin Tian asked. Ling Yun thought for a while. About 300 years. Lin Tian frowned. To be able to give birth to so many spirits in just 300 years, there must be something strange about this place. At this time, the black fog was still pouring out. More souls rushed out of the cave, howling continuously. Lin Tian waved her hand, and a dense cluster of lotus petals drifted out, destroying all of the spirits that had rushed out. Let's go in and have a look, he said to the young girl. Originally, he wanted the young girl to wait for him outside, fearing that there would be some danger inside. However, when he thought of the young man in blue and the others attacking the young girl, he shook his head in his heart and decided that it was better to keep the young girl by his side. Don't go. The young girl shook her head. She understood that Lin Tian wanted to completely remove the hidden danger here for her. However, it was very dangerous inside. Lin Tian naturally knew that the young girl was worried about his safety. He shook his head with a smile. Today we'll flatten this place. The young girl's eyes flickered, and she remained silent. It's so nice to be so lovey-dovey with each other. Ling Yun stared at the two of them and sighed. The young girl's eyes flickered again, and she lowered her head. I'll beat you up if you continue to be so sarcastic. Lin Tiandao. Ling Yun rolled his eyes and raised his hands in a gesture of surrender. At this moment, Lin Tian did not hesitate and pulled the young girl towards the cave in front of them. The young man named Ling Yun curled his lips and followed Lin Tianyi into the cave. This we're in? Ling Jing should be in that cave. Are we going in? Of course we're going in. Why not? Since we're here, we naturally have to give it a try. We can't just leave after coming here, right? But that person can even kill a flying cultivator. What are you afraid of? You don't necessarily have to be strong to get Ling Jing. Sometimes it still depends on luck. That's true. Then let's go in. Let's go. Soon, someone jumped down from the sinkhole. After a pause, he also rushed into the black hole in front of them. Let's go. Seeing that someone had entered the black hole, the other cultivators also moved and quickly rushed into the sinkhole. In the blink of an eye, almost all of the people on the sinkhole had jumped into the sinkhole and rushed into the black hole. Lin Tian pulled the young girl into the cave. Only then did he realize that there were many forks in the black hole, leading in all directions. There's a fork, the young girl said. The young girl's thinking was very cautious. After entering the black hole, there was a fork. They walked all the way forward. If there was a Yin spirit that was missed and went around the other forks, then ran out from the only exit. At that time, the villagers in the village would be in great danger. Don't worry, we're living people. After entering, we'll be the most direct target of the Yin spirits and evil spirits. They will first attack us. This is the so-called principle of proximity. As long as we're still alive, these Yin spirits will continue to attack us. They won't give up on what's close to them and run away. After all, they don't have much intelligence. Lin Tian obviously saw what the young girl was worried about. Oh! The young girl nodded and didn't speak again. Lin Tian pulled the young girl forward. His steps were very gentle. The young man named Ling Yun followed beside them slowly. Why are you following me? Lin Tian asked. Well, I think you're very interesting. We'll definitely hit it off very well. Ling Yun said. Lin Tian glanced at this guy. I don't think so. Our interests are completely different. This wretched young man was a complete pervert, a detestable pervert. You're shy with me? Ling Yun leaned over and hooked his arm around Lin Tian's neck. A few black lines appeared on Lin Tian's forehead. He really wanted to kick this damn pervert away. Entering this cave, the black fog inside became thicker, and there were gusts of cold wind blowing. Lin Tian and the other two walked forward. Along the way, there were Yin spirits and evil spirits rushing out from time to time, but without exception, they were all killed by Lin Tian. In the blink of an eye, the three of them walked far away. Along the way, about half an hour, about 100 Yin spirits and evil spirits died in Lin Tian's hands. At this moment, the air in the cave suddenly became cold, and there was an extremely cold aura coming from the side. Lin Tian and Ling Yun's expressions changed, and they both waved their palms forward. Boom! Two majestic palm forces surged forward, causing the void to tremble. Lin Tian looked at the young man beside him in surprise. The young man's casual palm, just now, was definitely comparable to an expert of Imperial Sky Tier 7. Don't look at me like that. I'll be shy, Ling Yun said shyly. Get lost. Lin Tian's forehead was full of black lines. A gust of wind swept out from the front, bringing with it an eerie coldness and a terrifying evil spirit, shaking the void. Lin Tian's expression became serious. There was something in here that was beyond his imagination. Seems like we've met a big guy, Ling Yun muttered. The two of them stared ahead and did not retreat. The black fog drifted in front of him, making whooshing sounds. Gradually, a pair of pitch-black eyes lit up. This pair of black eyes was clearly in the black fog, but it was so obvious and eerie, giving people an incomparably terrifying feeling. Obviously, this was a big demon. It's beyond the level of a malicious ghost. It's a ghost king. Ling Yun frowned, which was rare. However, it doesn't seem like an ordinary ghost king. Lin Tian frowned. He felt the fluctuation of soul power, and it was very strong. Buzz! The black and white lotus petals floated out one by one in front of him, condensing into a 3-foot-long lotus sword, pointing straight ahead. A ghost king, at its weakest, was comparable to a powerful immortal ascension expert. Killing ordinary immortal ascension cultivators was like child's play to them. Lin Tian stared ahead, his lotus sword trembling, and his expression was slightly serious. His spiritual sees anomaly specialized in restraining evil spirits and could easily kill malicious ghosts. However, it was not very possible to kill a ghost king. After all, his current cultivation was still not enough. The black eyes stared at them, and the black fog surged, forming a body. Those eyes were cold and merciless. Lin Tian let go of the girl and took a step forward, protecting the girl behind him. As if noticing Lin Tian's action, the black eyes in front of them looked forward, full of coldness. However, in the next instant, the pair of black eyes suddenly trembled when they landed on the young lady behind Lin Tian. It was as if it had seen something terrifying. The black fog around its body suddenly churned intensely. Moreover, a terrified expression surfaced in its originally sinister and cruel black eyes. It was as if it was a mouse that had seen a cat. It actually turned around and fled. Lin Tianyi was shocked, and so was Ling Yun. They both turned to look at the girl. This is Lin Tian frowned. The evil spirit just now had definitely reached the level of a ghost king. At this level, even the Taiyan physique of the airborne realm would not be afraid of it, and would even treat the Taiyan physique as delicious food. But now it was afraid of this girl. Ling Yun furrowed his brows and said, "As I said before, there were thousands of cultivators who fought here, and all of them died. After these people died, there seemed to be remnant souls that didn't disperse and turned into Yin spirits. It can be said that the Yin spirits here are different from the Yin spirits that were born from the extreme Yin Qi. In essence, the Yin spirits here are the remnant souls of the cultivators who died. It's just that they don't have consciousness. And the evil spirit just now that is comparable to a ghost king must have been a remnant soul that has grown to its current level. In essence, it is also a remnant soul and belongs to the soul body. Evil spirits that have reached the level of a ghost king should have some intelligence, but when they see her, they will be afraid. At the bottom of the giant sinkhole, she can directly absorb the lowest level of Yin spirits into her body. These Yin spirits can be seen as remnant souls in essence, which means that she can directly devour the remnant souls that are floating between heaven and earth. In this way, there is only one answer that I know that can explain all of this." Staring at the girl, the young man who was originally a little wretched suddenly became serious. He lowered his voice and said, "She should be the heavenly demon physique." Chapter 515. Lin Tian was shocked. The heavenly demon body? This girl had the imperial body? His brows furrowed as he recalled that Bai Ziki had told him that the Bai family's ancestor had once seen a heavenly demon physique that could summon tens of thousands of souls to battle. That was the most standard ability of the heavenly demon physique. Pinbooknet. Of course, if he could summon souls to battle, he could also destroy them. Shui Yi, relax. Let me see your origin. Lin Tiandao. The simplest and most direct way to see if a person had the imperial body and what kind of imperial body it was to look at their origin. This was what Bai Qiu had told him. In fact, this was indeed the most direct way, and there would not be any errors. Origin? The girl did not understand. Just relax. Leave the rest to me. Lin Tian said. Okay. The young girl and Lin Tian had only known each other for a short period of time, but after Lin Tian saw her face clearly, he didn't feel any disdain or distanced himself from her. Instead, he cared for her. Earlier, He was enraged because of her and even killed 3 people. She trusted Lin Tian very much. At that moment, the girl took a deep breath and relaxed herself. Lin Tian's forehead flashed. An array of light entered the girl's body, causing her to tremble slightly. Lin Tian extended his divine sense and entered the girl's body. He did not know how long he had been traveling, but suddenly, he saw a dark world. This world was very big and boundless. It was the girl's life origin. This life origin was as black as ink, but it was not eerie. It was like Tyene, but not Tyene. It was exactly the same as the original characteristics of the heavenly demon body recorded in the ancient books. He retracted his divine sense, and there was a hint of surprise in his eyes. This girl really did have the heavenly demon body. No wonder she could directly devour the spirits of the remnant souls without cultivation. He muttered to himself. Ling Yun looked at him and said, "How is it? My guess was correct, right?" Lin Tian frowned but did not say anything. After all, he had only known the other party for a short while. However, Ling Yun was not an ordinary person. He immediately understood the result. "It seems to be correct. Don't tell anyone." Lin Tian stared at Ling Yun. The influence of a king physique was undoubtedly very shocking. If others knew that the girl had the heavenly demon physique, it would definitely bring a lot of trouble to the girl. It could even be a fatal disaster. Without the support of a powerful force, without the protection of a powerful force, if the King T was exposed, the situation would be very torturous. "Don't stare at me like that. I can still tell what can be said and what can't." Ling Yun shrugged. "Thank you." Lin Tiandao. The young girl suddenly opened her mouth. Her voice was extremely soft as she asked Lin Tian, "Heavenly demon physique. What is that? Am I a demon?" The young girl lowered her head. She looked calm, but there was a trace of uneasiness in her eyes. She didn't want to be a demon. Lin Tianyi was stunned for a moment before he smiled. Not only him, but Ling Yun also laughed loudly. Lin Tiandao said, "Don't overthink it. The heavenly demon physique isn't a demon. It refers to a type of physique, an extremely powerful physique. It's a physique that countless people desire to possess." "Is this a good thing?" the young girl asked. Lin Tian nodded and said seriously, "Of course it's a good thing. It's a very good thing. Many people are envious. To put it simply, you're a proud daughter of heaven." The young girl shook her head gently. Being a proud daughter of heaven was not important. She just wanted to be normal. Hearing Lin Tian's words, the uneasiness in her eyes disappeared. She was not a demon. "Let's go. We're going to flatten this place." Lin Tiandao. He pulled the young girl into the depths of the cave. At the same time, he thought to himself that he had to stay by the young girl's side for a while. Ling Yun put his hands behind his head and followed Lin Tian into the cave. The deeper they went, the more black mist floated in the air. The air also became colder. In the process, Lin Tian killed a lot of spirits. In the blink of an eye, another hour had passed. Ah! At this time, there was a sudden scream in front of them. There were many forks in the black hole. Although Lin Tian and the other two entered the cave first, there were many forks and different routes. In addition, the cultivators who entered the forks later were eager to get Ling Jing and ran fast. They went around other forks to get to the front of the 3 of them. At this moment, someone rushed in from the front. His eyes were full of fear, and there was a lot of blood on his body. It seems that the Ghost King level evil spirit attacked the other cultivators who entered here. Some of them died. Ling Yun said. Lin Tian nodded. Of course he guessed it. In this cave, except for the Ghost King level evil spirit, there were only ordinary spirits. These spirits could not threaten the cultivators in the sea of consciousness. Ah! Screams sounded again. Soon, more cultivators ran from the front, frantically running out of the cave. Lin Tian looked into the depths and pulled the young girl forward. He wanted to go all the way and flatten this place. Ling Yun did not say anything. He followed them into the depths. As they went deeper, there were more and more spirits along the way. The black fog became thicker and thicker, and the air became colder. Lin Tian used his true essence to protect the young girl. The black and white lotus petals floated around him. Any Een spirit that appeared was killed instantly. This is a way to kill Een spirits. Ling Yun clicked his tongue. Crimson eyes and ghostly green eyes lit up all around, and the Een spirits grew denser and denser as they pounced towards Qin Yi. Lin Tian's expression was calm. Outside his body, the black and white lotus petals floated around. In the blink of an eye, all the Een spirits around them were killed. The young girl tilted her head and looked at Lin Tian, thinking in her heart, Lin Tian is truly powerful. The three of them walked all the way into the depths. Gradually, the number of forks in front of them decreased. Finally, they gathered at a point, and this point was a huge underground karst cave. At this time, there were many cultivators in this karst cave. Everyone had a terrified expression on their faces. This was because a terrifying ghost king was also in this karst cave, crazily reaping the lives of everyone. At this point, Lin Tian and Ling Yun suddenly felt a shocking, murderous aura. Looking over, they saw a dry well in the middle of this karst cave. Black light constantly rushed out from it. Devil's well? Ling Yun was shocked. Lin Tian naturally sensed the strangeness of that dry well. After hearing Ling Yun's words, he frowned slightly. What is the Devil's Well? There is spiritual energy in heaven and earth. Of course, there is murderous aura. Spiritual energy can condense into spirit veins and lingjing. When too much murderous aura is gathered, it can also form some special things. This Devil's Well is one of them. The well is completely filled with filthy, murderous aura. Ling Yun said, after the people who fought for Ling Jing died in the past, it was because of this Devil's Well that their remnant souls turned into Een spirits. Lin Tian muttered to himself. Although he was muttering to himself, Ling Yun still heard him. He nodded. Without a doubt, this must be the case. Ah! Screams rang out, exceptionally shrill. In the karst cave, many cultivators were terrified. They wanted to escape, but very few were able to. In this karst cave, the evil spirit at the level of the Ghost King was extremely fast. Every time it attacked, a cultivator was bound to die. Blood splattered all over the ground. Suddenly, the Ghost King stopped and swept its gaze towards Lin Tian and the others. Its dark pupils gradually turned blood red. Heh! A sinister laugh was heard. The Ghost King's gaze fell behind the girl. At this time, although it was still wary, it was no longer afraid. Lin Tian's eyes were a little indifferent as he glanced at the dry well. Standing on the edge of this Devil's Well, with the murderous aura as the source, and with this bastard devouring the flesh and blood essence of many cultivators, it is probably not afraid of her heavenly demon body now. Ling Yun said, if she knows how to cultivate and is in the same realm as us, even if there is a Devil's Well, it is nothing. Lin Tian on Dao. Nonsense. A heavenly demon body in the airborne realm beating up this remnant soul of the Ghost King is like swatting a mosquito. Ling Yun rolled his eyes. The heavenly demon body was the nemesis of all remnant souls. It had a perfect suppressive effect on remnant souls. This kind of suppression was 100 times more powerful than the Taiyin body suppression on malicious ghosts. After all, the Taiyin body could only make malicious ghosts feel fear. Its powerful essence was mainly the power of the Taiyin. However, the heavenly demon body was different for remnant souls. The heavenly demon body could dominate remnant souls. Of course, it could only be called dominating if the difference in realm was not too great. For example, the current girl, although she had the heavenly demon body, it was absolutely impossible for her to dominate this remnant soul of the Ghost King realm because the difference was too great. Roar! The Ghost King roared, its murderous aura threatening. Puff, puff, puff. In the blink of an eye, a few bloody lights exploded. Several cultivators were crushed by the Ghost King. All of their flesh and blood essence turned into a bloody mist and was absorbed by the Ghost King. Immediately, the Ghost King's body was surrounded by wisps of bloody light, and its aura became stronger. It looked in Lin Tian's direction, and its gaze fell on the girl. We are in trouble. This bastard wants to get rid of the person that it is afraid of. Ling Yun said. The Ghost King already had some intelligence. In this place where the demonic well stood, it wanted to kill the person who was a threat to it. It doesn't have a chance. Lin Tiandao. Ling Yun was stunned. Lin Tian let go of the girl's hand and stepped over to the Ghost King. He said to Ling Yun, "Help me take care of her." "Brother, are you stupid? You want to kill a Ghost King alone?" Ling Yun stared. A Ghost King was more powerful than most of the immortal reaching realm experts. The weakest one was comparable to an expert at the fourth heaven of the immortal reaching realm. Moreover, the Ghost King here was even more special because there was a demonic well in this place that could make the Ghost King even more terrifying. "We don't have to kill it." Lin Tiandao. A light flickered between his brows and supported the yin-yang lotus sea. In an instant, black and white lotus petals covered the surroundings. Consciousness phenomenon? Ling Yin was shocked and then muttered, "This guy is indeed not an ordinary person." A person who could comprehend the consciousness phenomenon was definitely a one-in-a-million genius. Lin Tian. The girl was a little worried. Ling Yun said, "Don't worry. It might be difficult for him to kill that stupid club, but that club definitely won't be able to kill him." Boom! At this moment, a shocking wave of true essence rushed out and spread in the karst cave. Lin Tian was expressionless. He took a step forward, and the yin-yang lotus sea swayed as it pressed down on the Ghost King. At the same time, he supported the starry moon, causing the entire karst cave to become dark and enveloping the Ghost King completely. Chapter 516. As soon as the yin-yang lotus sea and the starry sky moon were used, the cultivators in the entire karst cave were shocked, especially when they saw that Lin Tian's starry sky moon actually caused a small starry sky to appear in the karst cave. It was really shocking. Please search product #book.net to see the most complete novel. Buzz. The yin-yang lotus sea swayed and whistled. The black and white lotus petals were like deadly swords that slashed forward madly. At the same time, the starry sky moon trembled and the moonlight flowed towards the Ghost King like water. It was the brilliance of the king's territory, and it was the lunar king's territory. It immediately made the Ghost King tremble slightly and react to the lunar king's territory's radiance. It was an instinctive fear. However, this fear was too insignificant. In the next moment, the Ghost King roared, and its black eyes were stained with a wisp of blood. It actually dashed towards Lin Tian. Clang! The lotus petals vibrated, and there was the sound of a sword. The dense lotus petals cut through the space and instantly slashed the Ghost King's body. Wisps of green smoke slowly rose. The Ghost King roared in pain, and an even more sinister, murderous aura surged out and became even more violent. Lin Tian's face was expressionless as he attacked with the yin-yang lotus sea and the support of the starry sky moon. His steps were also very ethereal. Pushed, pushed, pushed. The black and white lotus petals slashed the Ghost King's body from time to time, causing green smoke to rise continuously, causing the Ghost King to roar continuously. Moreover, the radiance emitted by the starry sky moon also caused some damage to the Ghost King, causing it to retreat from time to time. Roar! The Ghost King roared, and the murderous aura on its body became stronger, causing hurricanes in the karst cave. Lin Tian was expressionless as the black and white lotus petals slashed from all corners, suppressing the Ghost King within a certain range. This guy is really terrifying. He managed to stop a Ghost King. Ling Yun was a little surprised, but he also shook his head. However, it doesn't seem possible to kill this Ghost King. He saw that although Lin Tian stopped the Ghost King, all his attacks didn't seem to cause too much damage to the Ghost King. Run! Ling Jing, we don't want her anymore. Let's go. Life is more important. Go. The people in front, don't block the ways. Seeing that Lin Tian had restrained the Ghost King, some of the cultivators who were still alive in the cave cried out and madly rushed out of the cave. The Ghost King was simply too terrifying. They didn't want to stay any longer. It was simply courting death. In the blink of an eye, all the cultivators in the cave ran away, leaving only Lin Tian, the young girl, Ling Yun, and the Ghost King. "Pervert, take her and get out of this cave." It was also at this moment that Lin Tian whispered. Ling Yun was stunned. "Retreat." Lin Tian Dao. The yin-yang lotus sea trembled. The bright moon shone in the starry sky, making him seem unapproachable. Ling Yun rolled his eyes, but he didn't say anything. He quickly brought the girl out of the karst cave and looked ahead. "Is this enough?" Lin Tian nodded and looked at the Ghost King again. Buzz! Behind him, the yin-yang lotus sea trembled and suddenly became violet. Lotus petals floated up like lotus rain. The black and white lotus petals occupied the entire space in the blink of an eye, exuding an extremely terrifying, destructive power. This was the peak state of his consciousness. There were too many other cultivators in the cave just now, so he didn't use his full strength because it might cause harm to the other cultivators. At this moment, the other cultivators in the cave escaped. Ling Yun also retreated with the young girl. He no longer had any scruples. Outside the cave, Ling Yun watched this scene and opened his mouth. "Oh my God!" Looking around, the black and white lotus petals covered the entire cave. Even Lin Tian's figure couldn't be seen. Clang! 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 The hundreds of thousands of lotus petals let out a piercing sound like swords, frantically rolling towards the center. Suddenly, a bright silver light was emitted from the dense lotus petals. At this moment, no one could see that in the dense sea of lotus petals, Lin Tian had used the divining divine skill to evolve the king's domain of the extreme yin physique to its limit. All the starlight gathered at one point and turned into a full moon with a diameter of 30 feet, directly covering the Ghost King. Instantly, a terrifying destructive power intertwined, causing the entire cave to tremble. "Roar!" The Ghost King roared, letting out an angry roar. With a boom, a whirlwind with a terrifying murderous aura swept all the lotus petals away. At a glance, the Ghost King's body was emitting dense green smoke. Clearly, it had suffered heavy injuries just now. Under its feet, the ground of the karst cave had collapsed. A huge pit with a diameter of 30 feet and a depth of 20 feet had appeared. The Ghost King was right in the middle of this huge pit, and its ghost eyes were flashing with rage. It was also at this moment that an ear-piercing buzzing sound was heard, and the entire karst cave lit up. The black and white lotus petals were blown away, revealing the Ghost King's figure and also Lin Tian's figure at the same time. At this moment, Lin Tian raised one hand to the sky, and the two vast silver pictures slowly rotated, vast and mighty, incomparably sacred waves of energy. Looking at the two silver pictures, Ling Yun and the young girl were shocked and somewhat shocked. The Ghost King, on the other hand, instantly began to tremble. Instinctively, the Ghost King sensed the threat. Boom! A violent murderous aura swept out. The Ghost King rose from the ground and rushed towards the demonic well, as if it wanted to use the murderous aura inside. Too late. A cold voice sounded. Lin Tian held the two silver pictures. With a flash of his feet, he appeared at the top of the huge pit and directly smashed a fist towards the Ghost King. This fist carried a black and white lotus petals, and with a bang, the Ghost King was smashed back into the huge pit. His eyes were cold. The two silver pictures were mighty, and he suddenly pressed them downwards, completely covering the huge pit. "Seal?" he said coldly. The Ghost King was indeed difficult to kill. At least with his current strength, he definitely could not kill a demon at the level of a Ghost King. Therefore, from the beginning, he did not intend to kill this Ghost King. What he wanted to do was to seal it. After everyone left the cave, he pushed the Lotus Sea to the limit, using it to cover the entire area, cooperating with the Lunar King domain to kill the Ghost King. At the same time, it also concealed his figure. At this time, he began to use the second layer of the four-symbol seal, condensing the two Dao pictures. The reason why he had to conceal himself was because the Ghost King was too strong. If he directly condensed the four-symbol seal in front of the Ghost King, it might be detected by the Ghost King in the process of using the technique. In the end, there would be a deviation, and it would be difficult to seal the Ghost King. Therefore, he used the yin-yang lotus sea to block the Ghost King's vision and perception, and used the Lunar King domain to create a huge pit in the Karst cave. When the Ghost King used its terrifying murderous aura to disperse all the lotus petals, his technique would have been completed, and it would be the best time to seal it. And the deep pit that he created with the Lunar King domain was far away from the demonic well, becoming a safe place to seal the Ghost King. Buzz! Under the pressure of the two silver diagrams, the void trembled slightly. The Ghost King roared, and frantically resisted. In an instant, murderous aura filled the entire Karst cave, and the air suddenly became cold. However, this was not very useful. The four-symbol seal was a supreme secret technique created by the ancient celestial lords, and it was said to be able to seal everything. Now that Lin Tian had comprehended this technique to the second layer, it was enough to seal demons of the Ghost King level. Lin Tian's eyes were cold. With a shift of his mind, the two silver diagrams merged into one and directly pressed down. The Ghost King let out its last roar, and its voice was instantly cut off. It was completely pressed into the huge pit by the two silver diagrams. Seal! Lin Tian spoke again. His right hand shook, and a silver light flashed. Then, everything quieted down. He fell from the sky, and a wisp of dust wind swept past his feet. The Karst cave was badly damaged, and the ground was cracked. Among them, only the four symbols Tao picture was emitting a faint light. Under the Tao picture, a Ghost King-level demon was suppressed, and it could kill a fourth-tier immortal. Outside the Karst cave, Ling Yun's mouth was wide open. It was not until dozens of breaths later that he came back to his senses, and his eyes were wide open. A Ghost King-level evil spirit was taken care of just like that. "Brother, you're defying the heavens." Ling Yun stared at Lin Tian. The girl's eyes flickered, and she walked back into the Karst cave with Ling Yun. "Are you hurt?" the girl asked. "No." Lin Tian shook his head. The girl seemed to be relieved and became relaxed. Lin Tian noticed this and smiled in his heart. This girl must have been very nervous and worried about him just now. "Okay, the Ghost King has been killed. It's almost over," Ling Yun said. Lin Tian shook his head. "This devil's well has to be destroyed." As his words fell, he held up the starry sky moon again. For a moment, the starlight gathered, converging into a bright moon about 5 feet in diameter, and pressed into the devil's well in the middle. After about 10 breaths, the bottom of the devil's well let out a shocking roar. The originally dense, evil aura suddenly dropped, and wisps of dark light rushed up. Lin Tian held up a true Yuan light screen, protecting the girl behind him. The dark light was a filthy, evil aura, and it was not good for the body. At this moment, a ray of light rushed up from the bottom of the devil's well, as if it had been shaken out by a great force. Suddenly, a shocking amount of spirit chi spread out. "It's Ling Jing, catch it!" Ling Yin shouted. Lin Tian's heart skipped a beat. He stretched out his right hand, transforming it into the Bai family's supreme divine palm, and caught the light in the blink of an eye. For a moment, the spirit chi became denser. Looking at it up close, the light showed its original form. It was about the size of a head, crystal clear, and exquisite like a precious jade. Holding it, Lin Tianji felt all the pores on his body expand, and the true Yuan in his body jumped involuntarily. "This is Ling Jing?" He was a little surprised. "What do you think?" Ling Yin asked with a smile. Lin Tian nodded. "It is indeed beyond my imagination." He once found an ordinary spiritual vein in the sea of the second heaven. That spiritual vein was 5 feet long and as thick as an adult's waist. Now, although the Ling Jing in his hand was only the size of a head, the spirit chi it exuded was not inferior to that spiritual vein. No wonder several small sects came here to fight for it. This Ling Jing is comparable to a complete spiritual vein. Chapter 517. To those big sects, an ordinary spirit vein was nothing. It was not a big deal. It was not a pity to give it up, but it was useless to gain it. However, to some small sects, the value of a complete spiritual vein was a little shocking. Usually, a small sect would not have more than 20 spiritual veins. If there was an additional spiritual vein on top of 20, one could imagine that the strength of the sect would definitely increase by several times in the future. This piece of Ling Jing was definitely comparable to a complete spirit vein. It was easy to imagine its value to a small sect. Because of this, competition naturally arose. Power. Everything is for power. Lin Tian muttered to himself. He put the Ling Jing into the stone ring and scanned the cave. He looked at the girl and said, "All right, let's go out." The girl nodded and followed beside him. Ling Yun shrugged and followed them out of the cave. As they walked out, Lin Tian summoned the vision in his mind again. Everywhere they passed, black and white lotus petals floated in all directions, killing all the remaining Yin spirits in the cave. Not a single one was left. About an hour later, he walked out of the cave with the girl. Ling Yun also stepped out of the cave. They both turned to look at the cave. A long sword appeared in Lin Tian's hand. With the sun-scorching sword force, dozens of sword lights entered the cave and exploded. Kaboom! With a loud bang, the cave collapsed and the entrance to the cave was completely blocked. As such, this place could be considered to have been completely flattened. In the future, no more Yin spirits will rush out of here. You don't have to come here anymore, Lin Tian said to the girl. The girl looked ahead and fixed her gaze. Her eyes flickered, and something like tears appeared. As if sensing this, the girl hurriedly rubbed her eyes. Then, she looked at Lin Tian and said, "Thank you." Lin Tian had completely eliminated the hidden danger for the village. He had also relieved her of the burden of so many years. This was a great kindness. "Beauty, what about me? Why don't you thank me?" Ling Yun asked. The girl looked at Ling Yun and bowed slightly. "Thank you. Yin Stai 1_TXD. The girl's voice was very soft, but she spoke very seriously. This made Ling Yun a little embarrassed. From the beginning to the end, he didn't contribute much. Whether it was the Yin spirit or the Ghost King level demon, everything was settled by Lin Tian. Lin Tian glanced at Ling Yun and said, "Don't bother with him. Let's go back." The girl nodded and followed beside Lin Tian. Ling Yun shrugged and left as well. About 2 hours later, Lin Tian and the girl walked out of the mountain and appeared at the edge of the village. As for the youth called Ling Yun, he eagerly followed behind him. "Why are you still following us?" Lin Tian frowned. "Sai, brother, don't be so heartless, okay? We went through a great battle together. We're comrades." Ling Yun appeared to be somewhat resentful. Lin Tian glanced at the perverted thief and didn't say anything else, walking forward with the girl. At this moment, it was still early, and there were quite a few people outside the village. When they saw Lin Tian and the girl return, many of them were moved. Some of them had fear in their eyes, some were furious, and quite a few of them pointed at the two of them. "You guys seem to be very unpopular." Ling Yun was curious. "If you don't speak, no one will think you're mute," Lin Tian said. Ling Yun rolled his eyes and shut his mouth. Lin Tian didn't care about the villagers' gazes and quickly returned to the girl's dilapidated stone house with the girl. The young man called Ling Yun naturally followed along as well. "You guys live here?" Ling Yun scanned the stone house, and suddenly his expression changed. "There's only one bed. It's not what you think," the girl said softly. "Don't be too dirty." Lin Tian was very direct. Ling Yun winked at Lin Tian with an expression that said, "You don't have to explain, I understand." A few black lines appeared on Lin Tian's forehead. This guy with dirty thoughts. "All right, you go out for a while. I have something to talk to her about alone," he said to Ling Yun. "Alone?" Ling Yun was stunned and suddenly laughed. "You just came back. Aren't you a little too impatient? Get out," Lin Tian said in a low voice. Ling Yun stomped his feet and directly went out, closing the wooden door. "I closed the door for you. You're welcome." In the house, only Lin Tian and the girl were left. "Your friend is very interesting," the girl said. Lin Tian blushed. "Friend? That perverted thief? He looked at the girl and said, "Take off your veil and let me see your face." The girl paused, and without saying anything, took off her veil. She trusted Lin Tian very much, and Lin Tian had already seen her face. However, even so, after taking off her veil, she still felt a little uncomfortable and slightly lowered her head. Lin Tian looked at the girl seriously. There were indeed more scales on the girl's face, which were originally light green, but now they were black. "Is it okay now?" the girl asked, wanting to put her veil back on. "There's no hurry. Let me tell you about yourself first." Lin Tiandao. The girl was slightly stunned. "You're telling me about me? Shouldn't she be the one to tell him about her?" "I'll talk, you listen." Lin Tiandao. The girl was very confused, but she still nodded. Lin Tian opened his mouth and said seriously, "You have the heavenly demon body. Previously at the back of the mountain, I also said that this is a very powerful body. At the same time, I can imagine that your mother should also have the heavenly demon body. This kind of body can devour some remnant souls and spirits, and even dominate them. You and your mother don't know what the heavenly demon body is, and you don't know how to cultivate. You just rely on the primitive ability of this body to absorb the spirits of the back of the mountain and protect the villagers in the village. However, because you didn't know how to cultivate and didn't know how to control the origin of the heavenly demon body, the yin spirit that was absorbed into your body wasn't completely crushed. Thus, some other changes occurred, which is the scale patterns on your face. I think that your mother should have experienced something similar to what you are experiencing now, right?" He looked at the girl. The girl nodded and said, "Yes." Lin Tian raised his hand, and there was a faint silver light in his palm, giving a very warm feeling. "Raise your face a little," he said. The girl paused and raised her face. Now half of her face was covered with scales, and it was black. "Just like this, don't move." Lin Tiandao. In his palm, a 7-inch 4-symbol seal appeared, shining faintly, and he pressed it on top of the girl's head. For a moment, a silver light curtain fell and enveloped the girl. The silver light fell on the girl and entered her body, causing the girl to tremble slightly. You don't know how to cultivate and don't know how to control the origin of the heavenly demon body. Now, there is a lot of turbid evil energy left in your body, and these evil energy have formed scales on your face. Now, I will slowly remove the turbid evil energy left in your body. When it is completely removed, you will become like a normal person, and the scales on your face will completely disappear," he said. Hearing this, the girl trembled, and for the first time, she had an emotional fluctuation. Really? She could return to normal? The scales on her face could disappear? Really? Lin Tiandao. As the words fell, the 4-symbol seal on top of the girl's head shone brighter, and more silver light entered the girl's body. Since he knew the reason why the girl had scales, he could naturally solve it. This was not difficult for him. Buzz! Specks of silver light surrounded the girl's body. One could see black smoke rushing out of the girl's body, and then being annihilated by the silver light, dissipating into nothingness. At the same time, the scales on the girl's face faded, turning from black to green, and the green slowly disappeared. Lin Tiandao's eyes shone brightly, and his hands quickly formed a seal. Then, the second 4-symbol seal appeared. The 2 Dao diagrams of the 4 symbols hovered above the girl's head, and the light shone even brighter, almost turning into a light cocoon that wrapped the girl. In the blink of an eye, an hour passed. After an hour, the silver light dissipated, and Lin Tiandao dispersed the 4-symbol seal. "It's done," he smiled. At this time, he looked at the girl again. The scales on the girl's face had completely disappeared, and what appeared was a flawless face. Her skin was smooth and soft like a baby's. It was incomparably delicate and not inferior to Bai Qiu at all. Because the girl was very quiet, she did not speak, nor did she smile. She even gave people a feeling that she was otherworldly, like the son of a Ruashian. Scanning the stone house, he found a dusty mirror in the corner, wiped off the dust, and handed it to the girl. "Take a look," he said. The girl's gaze moved to the mirror. She had not used this mirror in a long time, and it had been abandoned in a corner. Looking at the mirror, the girl was stunned. Was the person in the mirror really her? The scales on her face had disappeared. She had become normal. Finally, she could not hold back her tears, and they fell. The girl squatted down and could not help but cry. Over the years, even when the villagers ridiculed her, scolded her, thrown stones at her, and attacked her in the back mountains, she did not cry, and she did not even have a trace of emotion. However, at this time, she could not help it. She had become normal. This was a scene she had dreamed of countless times, and now it had come true. Lin Tiandao quietly looked at the girl crying. He did not comfort her, because these were tears of joy. At the same time, these tears were the release of all the grievances she had suffered over the years. After a long time, the girl finally stopped crying. "I'm sorry." She stood up from the ground, wiped away her tears, and said to Lin Tiandao, her voice still very gentle. As she spoke, she habitually put on the veil in her hand. Chapter 5:18. Hearing Lin Tian's words, the young girl paused, then shook her head. She felt that there was no need to do that. Please search Taste Book Yin Network to see the most complete novels. Let's go. Lin Tian did not allow her to explain, pulling the young girl outside. Opening the door of the stone house, the sun was shining brightly. The young girl followed beside him, her head slightly lowered. "Raise your head, Lin Tiandao." The young girl hesitated for a moment, then nodded and looked straight ahead. Lin Tian smiled, and the two of them walked out of the stone house together. Ling Yin was sitting on a green rock not far away. Seeing the two of them walk out of the stone house, he waved at Lin Tian. "Brother, you're quite capable. It's been almost an hour." Lin Tianyi kicked a piece of rock at Ling Yun. Ling Yun tilted his head to avoid it and said bitterly, "Can you not be so cruel to me?" Suddenly, the young man's gaze fell on Shui Yi, who was beside Lin Tian, and he was stunned. In the next moment, as if he had discovered an amazing treasure, he was 10,000 times more excited than when he found out that the young girl had the heavenly demon body. He rushed over like a wolf. Peerless beauty. This action startled the young girl, and she took a step back. Lin Tian raised his leg and kicked Ling Yun's face. With a bang, Ling Yun was sent flying, and he landed more than 20 feet away. Ahem, too excited, too excited. He got up and patted the dust off his body, looking a little embarrassed, but his eyes were shining brightly. Lin Tian glanced at him, then walked away. He didn't use any strength in that kick, so it couldn't have hurt Ling Yun. He didn't dislike this guy. Shui Yi followed beside Lin Tian. Lin Tian walked into the village, and the young girl followed beside him. There were many people in the village. When they saw Lin Tian walk over, they all looked a little afraid. However, very quickly, someone noticed Shui Yi beside Lin Tian. Everyone was shocked, and their eyes widened. They were completely stunned. "Who is that woman? So beautiful. Is she a fairy? Why are you following that evil man? Wait a minute. Her clothes seem to be exactly the same as that demonic woman's clothes. What? It seems like the height, body shape, and hair accessories are all the same." Someone was shocked. However, after taking a closer look, many people were dumbfounded again. It really seemed to be the same. This woman was that demoness. That demoness had actually become so beautiful, like a fairy. It's really that demoness, but it's so beautiful. So beautiful. A strong man murmured. These men had all cursed at the young girl before, and most of them already had families. At this moment, there were a few men whose women were beside them, and they immediately started cursing at their men. But even so, some of the men still secretly glanced at the young girl from time to time, causing their women to curse in a low voice. At the same time, they also looked at the young girl with jealousy. Some people wanted to call her a vixen, but they didn't dare because Lin Tian was standing beside the young girl. "This place? Oh my God, it's so ugly." Ling Yun followed behind Lin Tian and swept a glance at the few women in the village. Suddenly, he looked as if he was blind. He never concealed his voice, so naturally, when those women heard it, Their faces turned ashen and extremely ugly. They looked as if they wanted to eat Ling Yun alive. Lin Tian led the young girl into the small village. Now, no one dared to say anything because they were all afraid of Lin Tian. The young girl suddenly walked in front, and soon they arrived in front of a collapsed house with traces of fire. "This is?" Lin Tian asked. "In the past, my mother and I lived here. This was our home in the village," the young girl said, her voice very calm and soft. "Later, we were chased out by the villagers, and we built a small stone house at the edge of the village." Lin Tian was silent, looking at the traces of fire. It seemed that the villagers had burned the young girl's house back then, so they used stones to build the house later. He muttered to himself. At least he didn't have to worry about the villagers burning the stones again. He sighed. There were really all kinds of people in the world. Some villagers were simple, while others were abominable. How overboard was this? He and the young girl walked around the village, and after a short while they walked out again. "I'm going to burn incense at my mother's grave," the young girl said. "I'll go with you." Lin Tian nodded. The young girl was stunned for a moment, but she didn't refuse. She only thanked him softly. Because there were spirits in the back mountain, the young girl didn't bury her mother there, but in a small forest in front. The location was very far, and it took about 6 hours to reach. Lin Tian thought that the location of the tomb was so far away from the village, so the young girl was worried that the villagers would destroy her mother's tombstone. The young girl built a simple tomb for her mother, under an old tree. It was very ordinary. "Mother, the disaster at the back mountain has been solved by our benefactor. You don't have to worry." The young girl's voice was very soft. Lin Tian stood quietly by the side and didn't go forward to disturb her. Just as he thought, the young girl came here because of the matter at the back mountain. He sighed with emotion. What a filial girl. Not long after, the young girl finished paying her respects and apologized to Lin Tiandao. "Because they came here, they wasted a lot of time. You don't have to apologize. You are my benefactor. Everything I did was what I should do," he said. The young girl shook her head and said, "You are not an ordinary person. Even without me, you would be fine. You think too much. At that time, I had no strength left, and there were many wild beasts in the mountain. At that time, if a wild beast smelled blood and came over, even if it was just a wild monkey, it could easily kill me." Lin Tiandao. He didn't lie. What he said was indeed the truth. At that time, he was indeed exhausted. "Let's go back," he said. The young girl nodded and walked back to the village. After another 6 hours, the two of them returned to the small village. At this time, the sky had completely darkened. Bits and pieces of stars appeared in the sky, and there was also a full moon, sprinkling the sky with silver light. The young man called Ling Yun was still there and hadn't left. When the sky was even darker, it was time to rest. Lin Tiandao closed the door for the young girl and let her rest. He walked outside and came to a blue stone not far from the stone house. The young man, Ling Yun, was sitting there. "Still here?" he said. Ling Yun rolled his eyes and said, "Brother, I am such a handsome pervert. Do you not like me?" Lin Tiandao glanced at him. He didn't say anything. He looked at the night sky. The stars were twinkling, and the full moon hung high. He had been here for several days. Ling Yun was also looking at the night sky. At this time, it was much quieter. The two of them didn't speak. Soon, half an hour passed. "So, what do you plan to do?" Ling Yun broke the silence. "What do you mean?" Lin Tiandao. "You should know. I'm talking about the young girl beside you. She has the heavenly demon body. Do you have any plans?" Ling Yun said. Lin Tiandao frowned. At this time, he couldn't think of anything else. "I will stay here for the time being," he said casually. "You want to protect her." Ling Yun was very clear. Suddenly, he looked at Lin Tiandao and asked, "Are you alone?" "Yes." Lin Tiandao nodded. There was nothing to hide. Ling Yun looked at Lin Tiandao and then looked in the direction of the stone house. "Bring her to the sect I am in. How about it?" Lin Tiandao's eyes narrowed and fixed on the young man in front of him. The young man in front of him already knew that the young girl had the heavenly demon body. Now that he invited her, he couldn't help but have some thoughts. Ling Yun stared at Lin Tiandao. Obviously, he knew what Lin Tiandao was thinking. I know what you are worried about. There are some things that you can rest assured. I will not tell anyone that she has the heavenly demon body. I am not inviting you to my sect because she has the heavenly demon body. I just think that you are a very good person. You are very congenial and interesting. That is why I invited you. Of course, whether you go or not is completely up to you. Ling Yun said. Lin Tiandao was silent. It was indeed unrealistic for him to stay in this place. He was a cultivator and had to go to a place where there were cultivators. And the young girl had the heavenly demon body. As one of the 12 king bodies, she should not be ordinary. She should also come into contact with the world of cultivators. After dozens of breaths, he looked at Ling Yun and said, "Tell me about your sect." Ling Yun smiled. Since Lin Tiandao said such words, it could be considered that he had agreed to his invitation. He said, "The sect I am in is called the Emergence Dao sect. It is the same as the Golden Flames Dao sect that the 3 youths you killed in the back of the mountain are from. It is also one of the 12 Dao sects in this realm. There is no need to talk about its strength. It is very powerful. The Emergence Dao sect, the 12 Dao sects." Lin Tiandao whispered. He really didn't know anything about this heaven domain. "Brother, don't tell me you don't know about the 12 Dao sects?" Ling Yun sweated. Lin Tiandao said, "Didn't I say before that I have always been cultivating in the deep mountains? This is the first time I have come out." Ling Yun nodded. He remembered that Lin Tiandao did say this. "About the 12 Dao sects and some of the forces in this realm, can you tell me about them?" he said. Regarding this, Ling Yun nodded. Suddenly, he asked, "You don't know anything about this realm?" Lin Tiandao shook his head. "Then let me start with the overall situation." "Okay." Lin Tiandao needed to know about the entire third heaven. It was his first time coming to a new place, so naturally he needed to know about this realm. Ling Yun nodded. He looked at Lin Tiandao and said, "The third heaven is vast and boundless. It is full of spiritual energy. There are many spiritual lands and spiritual realms, and there are many ancient legends. As a whole, this realm is divided into 2 major areas. One is the Shun continent, located in the east, which is where we are now. The other is the barbarian land, located in the west." Chapter 519. Lin Tian was slightly surprised. Shun continent, barbarian land? This heaven is divided into 2 halves? Hearing Lin Tian's words, Ling Yun was stunned for a moment. Then he returned to normal and said, "If that's the case, it's not wrong." No pop-up window. Lin Tian was a little surprised. A great world was divided into 2 parts. It was really a bit special. It said that the third heaven wasn't like this in the past. It was very complete, and the Milky Way didn't exist. However, something big happened later. I don't know the specifics. Because of that event, the Milky Way appeared. Later, as time passed, the 2 major regions gradually became known as the Prosperous Continent and the Barbarian Land. Ling Yun said. Lin Tian nodded. He understood the overall situation. "Tell me about the major forces," he said. "Okay." Ling Yun said, "I don't know the distribution of forces in the Barbarian Land, but it's very strong. Now, I only know about Shun Continent. The flourishing continent was vast and boundless, full of outstanding people. There were many spiritual veins, immortal cultivator mansions, and all kinds of mystical spiritual domains. Let's not talk about the small sects on this flourishing continent. There are too many to count. I'll talk about the main forces, which are the 12 Dao sects, the 6 immortal sects, and the 3 grand dynasties. Alright, there's also a clan. Among them, the 3 empires are the most powerful. They are the 7 Luminaries Empire, the Great Zhou Empire, and the Purple Clouds Empire. These 3 great forces have been passed down for a very long time. They are like ancient gods looking down on Shun Continent. It is said that there are masters of the Enlightenment realm in each of them. Under the 3 empires, there are the 6 immortal sects, which are the Source Dragon Immortal Sect, the Formless Immortal Sect, the Giant Spirit Immortal Sect, the Great Change Immortal Sect, the Holy Star Immortal Sect, and the Xinshui Immortal Sect. Each sect has more than 7 masters of the Great Tao. Then there are the 12 Tao sects. They are the Azure Sun Tao sect, the Mysterious Thunder Tao sect, the Southern Void Tao sect, the Nine Extinction Tao sect, the Sirius Tao sect, the Golden Fire Tao sect, the Guling Tao sect, the Carefree Tao sect, the Sun Moon Tao sect, the Everlasting Summer Tao sect, the Divine Wind Tao sect, and the Plume Tao sect that I am in. Ling Yun said. Lin Tian was silent, but he was a little surprised in his heart. This is indeed the third heaven. It should be known that in the second heaven, there is only one great Tao realm master, and there are only 5 of them. However, in the third heaven, there are a total of 12 sects, not to mention the 6 immortal sects that are far more powerful than them. Not to mention, there are also the 3 great immortal empires that have enlightenment realm masters as their leaders. Not to mention, there are also the 6 great immortal sects that are far more powerful than them, as well as the 3 great immortal empires that have enlightenment realm masters. Indeed, the higher the level of the heavenly domain, the more terrifying the overall strength of the cultivation world was. He paused and asked, "What about that aristocratic family?" Ling Yun nodded and said, "This aristocratic family is very unusual. It's the Xuanlong family with an ancient inheritance. They have a very amazing ability to search for dragons. As I said before, there are many spiritual veins and immortal veins in the Shun continent, and there are also many Lingjing. This aristocratic family has the ability to find and excavate spiritual veins and Lingjing. It's very amazing. Let's give a simple example. Given an area, there is an immortal vein in this area. It may take an ordinary cultivator 10 years to find this immortal vein. However, a person from the Xuanlong family, even if his cultivation is lower than this cultivator, may only take 1 or 2 days to find this immortal vein." Lin Tianyi was shocked. So exaggerated? 10 years and 1 or 2 days, the contrast was a little too stark. Otherwise? Ling Yun rolled his eyes and said, "Moreover, finding the immortal vein is one thing. How to excavate it and use it is another thing. The people of the Xuanlong family are obviously better at this than ordinary cultivators, and they can easily excavate the immortal vein. Moreover, this family has some special techniques that are sometimes impossible to guard against." "How is their overall strength, comparable to the 3 empires?" Lin Tiandao, "You think too much. How can an ordinary family compare to the 3 empires? Although this aristocratic family is not ordinary, their overall strength is comparable to the 6 major immortal sects, which is thousands of miles away from the 3 empires." Ling Yun said. Lin Tian nodded and asked, "Then, what about array manipulators? Are there any forces belonging to them? And alchemists of the Tao of Alchemy. Are there any alchemist powers of the Tao of Alchemy?" "Yeah. You know about array manipulators and alchemists?" Ling Yun was a little surprised. "I know a little." Lin Tiandao. "Oh." Ling Yun said, "There are no forces of array manipulators and alchemists in the Shen continent, but there are some sects with array manipulators and alchemists. As for array manipulators and alchemists, there might be such forces in the barbarian land." Lin Tian nodded and had an overall understanding of this heavenly region. The barbarian land was unknown. In this Shun continent, there were 12 sects, 6 major immortal sects, 1 aristocratic family, and 3 empires. It was indeed vast, and there were too many experts. "Tell me about the Ascension Tao sect," he said. Ling Yun said, "As one of the 12 Tao sects, the Ascension Tao sect's Grand Elder is at the first level of the Great Tao. The sect master seems to be at the 7th level of the Immortal Ascension realm, and the other elders are at the early stage of the Immortal Ascension realm to the 6th level of the Immortal Ascension realm. As one of the 12 Tao sects, the Ascension Tao sect's strength and resources are indescribable. There are 12 immortal veins intertwined in the sect, and there is even a special immortal spirit valley. At the bottom of the valley, there are 2 complete immortal veins that are specially provided for the disciples of the sect to cultivate. As for the ordinary spirit veins, there are many of them. As for the exact number, I'm not too sure. There are a total of 12 spirit veins." Lin Tian muttered to himself. Listening to Ling Yun's words, he was really a little surprised. 12 immortal veins, this was not a simple number. One must know that even though immortal veins and spirit veins both have the word vein, the actual difference is very big. Simply put, a complete immortal vein is comparable to 10,000 complete spirit veins, or even more. The most important thing is that the spiritual energy gathered by immortal veins is much purer, and the impurities are many times less than ordinary spirit veins. As far as he knows, in the second heaven, the bottom of the Bai family only has 9 complete immortal veins. But this Ascension Tao sect has 12 complete immortal veins, which is really a little shocking. Moreover, this sect gathered 2 of the immortal veins under the Immortal Spirit Valley, which is very beneficial to the cultivation of the sect's disciples. What about the rest? He asked again. The rest is not important. It's just something like a martial arts practice field. These things are available in any small sect. It's just a matter of size. Ling Yin said. As for the classification of the disciples in the sect, there are several levels. Outer disciple, inner disciple, true disciple, core disciple, and core disciple. The Ascension Tao sect now has a total of 10 people, also known as the candidates for the Holy Sun. In the future, the Holy Sun will be born from these 10 people. Ling Yun continued. The so-called Holy Sun refers to the successor of the next sect leader. Once the Holy Sun is chosen, the sect will do its best to nurture him. Whether it's magical powers, secret techniques, or cultivation resources, he will have whatever he wants. In fact, the status of the Holy Sun is much higher than that of some elders in the immortal connecting realm. Lin Tian nodded. He was very clear about the Holy Sun. Several large forces in the second heaven had Holy Suns. Then, have you really decided to go? Ling Yin asked. Lin Tian nodded. Yes. Ling Yin jumped over and hooked his arm around Lin Tian's neck. Good brother. Let's conquer the world together in the future. Lin Tian glanced at him and said, What level are you in the Ascension Tao sect now? True disciple. Ling Yin waved his hand and said, I'm not interested in being a core disciple. The Holy Sun is too troublesome. Whoever wants to be it can be it. I like freedom. It's much more interesting to look at beautiful women than to be the Holy Sun. You have to know that a life with beautiful women watching is a real life. What's the point of being the Holy Sun and the sect master and staying in the sect every day? Lin Tian. This guy was indeed a perverted thief. At night, the stars were bright, and the full moon was shining brightly. The two of them chatted casually, and the atmosphere was not bad. Soon, the darkness dissipated, and the morning sun rose. On this day, Lin Tian found the girl and told her about going to the Ascension Tao sect to cultivate. Can I not go? The girl asked. This was a place where she was born and raised. Even though the villagers treated her badly, she was still unwilling to leave. This place is not suitable for you. Lin Tian Dao. His expression was very serious. The girl had the king body and was born for cultivation. She should not stay in an ordinary village. The girl opened her mouth and scanned the stone house. The stone house was built by her mother. Even though it was old, it contained many things that she could not bear to part with. Lin Tian looked at the girl and saw her expression. He sighed and said, If you really don't want to go to the cultivation world, it's okay. I will accompany you here and teach you cultivation. When you have enough ability to protect yourself, I will leave. This girl was strong and kind. He did not want to force her to do something she did not want to do. If the girl really did not want to leave, he would teach her cultivation in this place until she had the ability to protect herself. After all, the girl had the heavenly demon body. If she did not have the ability to protect herself and was discovered by others, it would be very dangerous. Moreover, not to mention the young girl's physique, just the young girl's appearance alone would be a disaster. If some men with bad intentions saw the young girl, they would definitely have bad intentions. That was even more dangerous than being discovered to have the heavenly demon physique. The girl's lips moved and said, I will go with you to the Ascension Gate. If Lin Tian stayed here to teach her, it would definitely waste a lot of time. She did not want to waste Lin Tian's time. Lin Tianyi was stunned. However, looking at the girl's expression, he quickly guessed something. This made him sigh. However, he also felt that the girl should go out. she would definitely shine in the cultivation world. In the future, she would definitely shine. Do you have anything to pack? Lin Tian asked. The girl nodded. Some things were left by her mother. She had to take them with her. In addition, there was also a change of clothes. I will help you. Lin Tiandao. At the same time, he took out an empty stone ring. After the girl took out her things, he put them into the stone ring for her. The girl did not have many things, so she finished packing in about 15 minutes. After walking out of the stone house, the girl closed the door seriously. Then, she turned to look at the village and at some of the villagers. Lin Tian sighed. Even if these villagers bullied the girl still looked reluctant when she left. Chapter 520. Lin Tian stood by the girl's side and remained silent, not saying anything. The young girl looked at the village and only regained her senses after dozens of breaths had passed. Sorry, I was absent-minded. She apologized. Lin Tian smiled and shook his head. The young girl stopped looking and glanced at her house before walking out with Lin Tian. Not far away, Ling Yun was sitting on a large rock. When he saw the two of them walking over, he jumped down. Is everything all right? Ling Yun said. Yes. Lin Tian nodded. Ling Yun laughed heartily. He walked in front of the two of them and led them to the Ascension Dao sect. Naturally, he was the one leading the way to the Ascension Dao sect. Not long after leaving the village, Lin Tian suddenly took the initiative to accompany the young girl to the grave of her mother. He felt that since they were going to leave the village and go somewhere far away, the young girl should want to say goodbye to her mother. After that, because the young girl could not fly, Lin Tian and Ling Yun could only find 2 fast horses in a nearby ancient city. Lin Tian led the young girl on the horses. At the same time, he also chose a few sets of better clothes for the young girl before following Ling Yun to the Ascension Dao sect. Just like that, 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. On this day, a vast group of palaces appeared in front of them. They were located in a celestial mountain and looked extremely shocking. We're here, Ling Yun said. This is the Ascension Dao sect? Lin Tian frowned. Ling Yun nodded and said, of course. The 3 of them entered the Ascension Dao sect. There were many disciples coming and going in the sect. All of them had extraordinary blood energy and high cultivation bases. Looking around, there were many palaces, strange stones, and even many plants that were shrouded in light. They were all extraordinary. Let's go. I'll introduce you, Ling Yun said. As a true disciple of the Ascension Dao sect, Ling Yun had the right to recommend 3 disciples to the sect. He did not need to participate in the sect's assessment. Lin Tian and the young lady followed Ling Yun to the Ascension Dao sect's Elder Pavilion. Not long after, they received the Ascension Dao sect's disciple nameplates and became new disciples of the Ascension Dao sect. Of course, they were just ordinary outer sect disciples. Let's go and choose a residence, Ling Yun said. Not long after, Lin Tian and the young girl followed Ling Yun to a residential area of the Ascension Dao sect. As far as the eye could see, this residential area occupied a very large area. Moreover, there were individual houses. Each house was comparable to Mu Qing's small courtyard in the Nanyang Martial House. Some were even better. This made Lin Tian somewhat surprised. Ling Yun chuckled and said, the environment of the Ascension Dao sect is not bad. The residents will definitely not be bad. Lin Tian nodded. This environment was indeed very good. He led the girl into the residential area, randomly chose a small courtyard, and stepped inside. After entering, the environment inside was also very good. There were 5 large rooms. This is the residential area of the outer sect disciples. It is separated from the residential areas of the inner sect disciples, true disciples, and core disciples. I live in the true disciple area, which is not far from here, Ling Yun said. He briefly explained the place where he lived and drew a sketch for Lin Tian. He said, it's getting late. After walking for so long, you should be very tired. Rest first. Tomorrow, I'll bring you to familiarize yourself with the Ascension Dao sect. As he spoke, he looked at Lin Tian and pouted at the young girl. He winked at Lin Tianyi. Lin Tian. Ling Yin laughed and waved at Lin Tian and the young girl. He quickly left. Lin Tian and Shui Yi each found a room and quickly arranged their things. At this time, the sky was already dark. Shui Yi, come this way. Lin Tian called the young girl. Inside the small courtyard was a large house with a total of 5 rooms. Lin Tianxuan chose a relatively large room and cleared out everything in it, so the space seemed to be much larger. Soon, the young girl walked over. I'll teach you how to cultivate. Lin Tian on Dao. The young girl nodded and sat opposite Lin Tian. Lin Tian had taught Lin Shi how to cultivate and accompanied Lin Shi for a year. Therefore, it was naturally very easy for him to teach again. He did not hold back and imparted the scriptures of the 4 extremes to the young girl. He also passed on his cultivation experience to her. This process took more than 2 hours. In more than 2 hours, the young girl memorized the scriptures of the 4 extremes and also the cultivation experience that Lin Tian passed on to her. This made Lin Tian a little surprised. The young girl's memory was really amazing. One had to know that when he first imparted it to Lin Shi, little Lin, she spent a few days memorizing it. However, he quickly understood. After all, Lin Shi was still young. Naturally, her memory would not be as good as that of an older girl. Most importantly, the young girl had the heavenly demon body. As a king body, naturally, she had the advantages of a king body. It's about time. Let's officially start cultivating. He took out a lingjing the size of a head from the stone ring. Once this lingjing was taken out, the entire room was instantly filled with dense spirit qi. There was a faint light intertwining in the air. This kind of light was mixed with a slight warmth, making people feel very comfortable. Lin Tian also wanted to cleanse the young girl's marrow like Lin Shi. However, he did not have anything like the blood pill now. Therefore, he could only give up on the matter of cleansing the marrow. However, he thought about it again. It seemed that it was not necessary because the young girl had a king body. The flesh and blood of a king body was countless times stronger than that of an ordinary person. Naturally, the impurities in the flesh and blood were countless times fewer. Use this lingjing. I will accompany you to cultivate. The first time you cultivate, the body refining stage may be a little painful. He said to the young girl. Okay. The young girl nodded and obediently sat opposite Lin Tian. She seemed very peaceful. She did not feel nervous about the pain that Lin Tian mentioned. She did not show the slightest trace of emotion. Lin Tianyi smiled. He and the young girl sat cross-legged facing each other. He placed the big-headed Ling Jing between the two of them. Let's begin. Use the cultivation method that I gave you. He said. The young girl nodded. Her expression was somewhat serious. Soon, a faint silver light appeared on the surface of her body. At the same time, the young girl frowned slightly. However, it was only for a moment. Her brows relaxed again. Lin Tian naturally knew the reason for the young girl's frown. The first time one came into contact with cultivation, the body refining stage would be very painful. The young girl frowned because of the sudden pain. However, what surprised him was that the young girl returned to normal in an instant. So strong, he muttered to himself. When he first came into contact with cultivation and began to refine his body, he was in so much pain that he grimaced in pain and almost wanted to cry out. However, the young girl only frowned. This made him sigh, and at the same time, he felt a little sad because he could imagine that the young girl's strength was built on the endless grievances she had endured. He adjusted himself slightly and calmed himself down. In the path of cultivation, from low to high, the realms are body refining, divine pulse, sea of consciousness, flight, immortal connecting, great Tao, enlightenment, nirvana, and chaos. Each realm is divided into 9 small steps. Cultivators have to climb up step by step. Every small step will improve their strength. Every time they reach a new realm, their strength will undergo a qualitative change. He personally explained the path of cultivation to the young girl. His tone was gentle, friendly, and very detailed. In the path of cultivation, regardless of the stage, spirit qi is very important, even for chaos realm experts. Now, slowly absorb Lingjing's spirit qi. Along with your body refining, you have to be careful. Lingjing's spirit qi is very pure. Now that you have just come into contact with cultivation, don't absorb too much. Just absorb slowly and adapt. Okay. The young girl nodded. She operated the 4 extreme scripture. Spirit qi entered her body bit by bit, causing her body to tremble slightly. Lin Tian sat cross-legged in front of the young girl, watching her cultivate. When the young girl completely stabilized, he nodded and operated the 4 extreme scripture, relying on Lingjing's spirit qi to cultivate. After that, just as he operated the 4 extreme scripture, he once again felt the extraordinariness of Lingjing. The spirit qi contained in it was too majestic and pure. He took a deep breath and calmed himself down in an instant. The 4 extreme scripture calmly operated. Strands of Lingjing's spirit qi entered his body. Suddenly, he felt a warm current flowing through his entire body. There was an indescribable feeling of carefreeness. Wong! Halos appeared on the surface of his body. Specks of silver light jumped like flames. The spirit qi contained in Lingjing entered his body and quickly merged with his 8 extraordinary meridians and true essence. Then, Lin Tian operated the 4 extreme scripture even faster. Relying on this pure spirit qi, he crazily and rapidly refined his true essence. As he used his spirit qi to refine his true essence over and over again, the silver light on the surface of his body became stronger and stronger. He was in the airborne realm, and at this level, the main focus was to refine his true essence. Once the true essence underwent a quantitative change, it would finally reach a qualitative change. Once the qualitative change occurred, one would be able to break into the connecting immortal realm. Once one entered the connecting immortal realm, the true essence in one's body would be transformed into a brand new power, a more powerful power, divine power. Wong! He sat cross-legged in front of the young girl and operated the 4 extreme scripture over and over again. The spirit qi contained in Lingjing was like a light source, being absorbed into his body crazily. At the same time, Lingjing's size was also changing. After 2 hours, Lingjing, who was originally the size of a head, had shrunk to half its original size. Most of the spirit qi had been absorbed by Lin Tian. During this process, he kept his consciousness outside of his body, watching the young girl's cultivation. At the same time, he helped the young girl control the spirit qi that entered her body to a very balanced level. Not too much, not too little. For the young girl's current level of cultivation, this was definitely the best control point. This was not difficult for him. After all, he was in the airborne realm now. One, silver light intertwined. Both of them were surrounded by the same light. In the dark night, the room was completely shrouded in silver light. Both of them stopped talking and cultivated quietly, operating the same ancient scripture and absorbing the same spirit qi. Very quickly, another 6 hours passed. Vaguely, the morning sun was about to rise in the sky. It was also at this time that a majestic force rippled from Lin Tian's body. It was very powerful and very shocking. Lin Tian opened his eyes. 2 beams of light flashed in his eyes. The 5th layer of the airborne realm. Chapter 5:21. In the past year, although Lin Tian's cultivation did not improve, his strength increased by a lot. Moreover, his cultivation foundation became more stable. Now, with the support of Lingjing, who was comparable to a complete spirit vein, he stepped into the 5th celestial layer of the Zephyr realm, which was a matter of course. Therefore, regarding this, he was not too surprised. He closed his eyes and stabilized the 5th celestial layer of the Zephyr realm. Because his foundation was strong enough, after a quarter of an hour, he opened his eyes again. The 5th celestial layer of the Zephyr realm was completely stabilized. He stared ahead. The girl's expression was very calm. Outside her body, there were strands of silver light interweaving. Matched with the girl's delicate face, she was really like a peaceful fairy. He smiled gently. This girl easily made him feel pity for her. Lowering his head, he looked at Lingjing in the middle. At this moment, Ling Jing, who was originally the size of a head, was only the size of a baby's fist after a night. Although she still emitted a rich spirit energy, she could not support it for too long. However, this small piece, for the girl who had just stepped onto the path of cultivation, was enough. He quietly sat opposite the girl, guarding her cultivation. In the blink of an eye, another 4 hours passed. At this time, Ling Jing was completely exhausted. Outside the girl's body, there was a faint silver light in her weaving. Then, this silver light gradually dissipated, and the girl slowly opened her eyes. "How do you feel?" Lin Tian asked with a smile. The girl stretched out her hands, looked at herself, and said, "Compared to before, it's a lot better. It's like I've changed into a different person." This is what cultivation is. Cultivation is about constantly transforming yourself. Lin Tiandao. After a night of cultivation, the girl's cultivation had already reached the peak of the fourth celestial layer of the body refinement realm. Her entire person's essence, energy, and spirit had clearly improved, completing the first transformation from a mortal to a cultivator. And to reach the fourth celestial layer of the body refinement realm in one night, Lin Tianyi was not surprised at all. After all, the girl had the king body, and she was still relying on Ling Jing to cultivate. It was not strange for her to have such results. On the contrary, if she did not have such results, that would be abnormal. The young girl nodded and didn't say anything. She seemed very quiet, but she looked at Lin Tian very seriously and listened to Lin Tian's speech. Seeing the girl's expression, Lin Tianyi was stunned. That feeling was like a student waiting for a teacher to teach her. That's about it. He couldn't help but laugh. Then, he took out another stone ring from his own stone ring and handed it to the young girl. This is a stone ring. It contains a small space. You can use it by injecting your true qi or your mind. You can put some things in it and take it out easily. I picked out a few sets of clothes for you and some of your things. They're all in this stone ring. He handed the stone ring to the girl and let her try using it. The girl nodded. Soon after, a simple object appeared in her hand. It was a wooden comb. Then, a pure white dress appeared in his hand. It was very clean and very beautiful. Looking at the long dress in her hand, the young girl was in a daze. "Thank you." After a short while, the young girl came back to her senses and said to Lin Tian. Lin Tian shook his head. "Don't say thank you to me. You saved my life. It's only right that I do anything for you." The young girl shook her head. "It's not like that. She wanted to say something, but she was interrupted by Lin Tian. "Don't think too much. Go and try it on first. I really want to see how you look in this dress. You'll definitely be the most beautiful girl in the world." Lin Tian smiled. "Also, that pervert brought us to familiarize ourselves with the Emergence Dao sect today. He should be here soon. Let's get ready." The young girl nodded, hugged the long dress to her chest, and returned to her room. Lin Tianwei smiled and also stood up. She walked back to her room and tidied up a little. Then, she walked out and came to the courtyard. He said to the young girl that Ling Yun brought them to familiarize themselves with the Emergence Dao sect and needed to prepare. This was just a casual remark. In fact, he didn't need to prepare anything. He just didn't want the young girl to think too much and change the topic. Standing in the small courtyard, the surroundings were surrounded by green wood railings. There were many immortal plants standing tall. The air was very fresh, many times better than the outside world. Lin Tian glanced at all of this. As expected of one of the 12 Dao sects of the third heaven, the conditions in the Emergence Dao sect were really amazing. Even the ancient families of the second heaven couldn't compare to them. "Yo, you woke up early. I thought you guys would play until late." A voice sounded. Ling Yin walked into the courtyard from afar. He went forward and hooked his arm around Lin Tian's neck. He chuckled wretchedly. Lin Tian glanced at this guy and couldn't be bothered to pay attention to him. Creak! A crisp sound rang out. The door of the small courtyard opened, and a young girl walked out from inside. The young girl changed into the long dress chosen by Lin Tian. She was dressed in white, and her soft black hair draped over her shoulders. Coupled with her delicate appearance and her quiet expression, she exuded a fairy-like temperament. It was as if she was a Ruashian who had fallen into the mortal world. Although Lin Tian knew that the young girl would be very beautiful after changing into the long dress, he was still slightly stunned when he saw it in person. Beside him, Ling Yun's eyes widened. His arm around Lin Tian's neck involuntarily tightened, and he pulled Lin Tian to his side. Lin Tian came back to his senses. He felt Ling Yun's movements and looked at his expression. Suddenly, black lines appeared on his forehead. His left elbow fiercely hit the pervert's chest. Ow! Ling Yun wailed and rolled his eyes at Lin Tian. The young girl looked at Lin Tian and said, "Is it not beautiful?" Lin Tian shook his head and said with a smile, "No, it's very beautiful. It suits you very well." Ling Yun covered his chest with his left hand and gave the young girl a thumbs up with his right hand. The young girl closed the door, and the three of them walked out of the small courtyard. Under Ling Yun's lead, they familiarized themselves with the entire Feather Transformation Dao sect. Over there is the martial arts practice field. The sparring and personal battles between disciples are all carried out in the martial arts practice field. There are many disciples of the Dao sect gathered in the martial arts practice field every day. There are dozens of small battles and sparring within the sect every day. Over there is the profound divine pavilion. It is divided into 9 floors, and some of the divine abilities and secret techniques of the sect are stored there. There are 9 floors, and the stronger one is the higher the floor one can climb. The more powerful the divine ability is, the higher the position it is placed. On the 9th floor is the strongest immortal scripture of the Feather Transformation Dao sect, the Feather Transformation Divine Technique, which has unfathomable power. Over there is the Elder Hall. I think I don't need to say more to understand. It is the place where the elders of the sect gather. Over there is the Deacon's Court. The distribution of pills, the exchange of artifacts, the daily affairs of the Dao sect, and so on are all handled by the Deacon's Court. At the center is the Feather Transformation Tower. It is the symbol of the Feather Transformation Dao sect. Only the sect master and the Grand Elder are qualified to enter it. It is said that there is a high-grade Dao weapon inside. It is a 9-story pagoda, and it is the strongest foundation of the sect. Ling Yun said as he walked. Lin Tian and the young girl followed Ling Yun and walked through every part of the Feather Transformation Dao sect. As they were in a hurry yesterday, they did not really pay attention to their surroundings. Now that they really looked at it, Lin Tian realized that the Feather Transformation Dao sect was really too big. There were many halls and main peaks that stood proudly. There were even strands of immortal light flickering between the halls and the main peaks. Very quickly, 6 hours had passed. It was already afternoon. Lin Tian and the other two arrived in front of a huge valley. Many people were entering and exiting. The Immortal Spirit Valley is the most important place for the disciples of the sect. There are 2 complete immortal meridians at the bottom. There are many disciples who come here to cultivate every day, even more than the martial arts practice field. Ling Yun said. As the 3 of them walked in, Lin Tian was slightly shocked. This was because the spiritual energy in the valley was too dense. It was very shocking. After walking for a while, there were many separated stone rooms in the valley. However, the stone rooms did not have stone doors. They were completely open to the outside. There was only a groove at the edge of the door, which seemed to be used to store something. Lin Tian looked at it seriously and realized that there were lines of interweaving patterns near the groove. They spread in all directions, and every stone room seemed to be open, but there was a layer of faint transparent light covering the outside. Formation pattern? Barrier? Lin Tian's eyes narrowed. Ling Yun just happened to open his mouth at this time and said, "There are no restrictions in the Immortal Spirit Valley. As long as you are a disciple of the Feather Transformation Dao sect, you can come here to cultivate at any time. However, you have to pay something." Ling Yun pointed to the stone chambers and said, "Each of these stone chambers is a cultivation ground. It looks like it's open to the outside world, but it's actually not. Each stone chamber is enveloped by a formation. If the disciples of the sect want to enter and cultivate, they have to put a certain amount of beast cores into the groove outside the stone room to activate the formation. This will cause the formation to open and disperse the light barrier outside the stone room. Only then can they enter and absorb the spiritual energy inside to cultivate. When someone enters the stone room, the formation will be activated again. The light barrier will appear again and cover the stone room to ensure that the person who enters can cultivate peacefully. Furthermore, the sect has a rule that no one can disturb the disciples who are cultivating in the stone room. Otherwise, they will be punished severely. After all, if a cultivator is interrupted in the middle of cultivation, there will be very serious consequences. It is possible that they will die on the spot. Ling Yun said. In addition, the formation outside the stone room will automatically determine the amount of time the person can cultivate in the stone room based on the quality and quantity of the beast cores placed in the groove. Once the cultivation time is up, the formation will be activated again. At this time, the person who is cultivating in the stone room must immediately leave and not stay for a moment. Every stone room has a different concentration of spiritual energy. Using different stone rooms as a comparison, the higher the concentration of spiritual energy in the stone room, the more beast cores one will need to cultivate for the same amount of time. Simply put, 50 beast cores of the same quality may be able to cultivate for a day in the stone room with low concentration of spiritual energy. However, in the stone room with high concentration of spiritual energy, you may only be able to cultivate for 2 hours. Hearing this, Lin Tian nodded. This principle was easy to understand. Ling Yun continued. Another point is that to cultivate in this place, the beast cores placed in must be of level 9 and above. Those that are lower than that are of no use. It would be a waste to throw them in. Of course, you can also throw in Ling Jing for better results. However, how can ordinary people have Ling Jing? Even if they do, how can they throw it in here? After finishing, Ling Yun looked at Lin Tian and said, "How is it? Is it detailed enough? You should understand, right?" "Very detailed." Lin Tian nodded. The three of them walked along the Immortal Spirit Valley. There were many disciples in the valley. Lin Tian saw that most of the stone rooms were occupied with people cultivating. Not long after, the three of them passed by another stone room. This one was empty. From the outside, they could feel that the spiritual energy in this stone room was very dense. It was many times stronger than the other stone rooms around it. "How is it? Do you want to give it a try?" Ling Yin asked. "Of course." Lin Tian nodded and said to the girl, "Shui Yi, I will use the beast cores to open the light screen outside the stone room. Why don't you go in and cultivate?" He did not lack level 9 beast cores. He had a lot of them. The girl had just embarked on the path of cultivation. To have such a place to cultivate would be very helpful for her future. "What about you?" the girl asked. "The level of spiritual qi here doesn't have much effect on me now. It's not much use," Lin Tian said. "As for the beast cores, you don't have to worry. I have a lot of them. Usually, I don't have much use for them. They are completely empty. Now that I have a place like this, it is a good use. Otherwise, it would be a waste to leave them here." The girl opened her mouth, but finally nodded. Since Lin Tian had already said so, how could she refuse? Lin Tianyi smiled and walked to the side of the groove. Beast cores appeared in his hand. They were all level 9 peak beast cores. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.